It didn't work. It didn't work. I was supposed to appear from the mists.
I mean, you mentioned about Andy disappear completely, so...
I did. Oh, and my hands. Oh, everything's gone wrong. My Alan Menowith joke has fallen flat. Hello, everyone. Welcome to an Ask Us Anything for some of the cast of LAWhammer, which we are doing tonight because some people are sadly unwell.
Very sad.
It's very sad.
And it's not me for once. Yay!
Yay!
Oh yeah. So I've got Andy Leese who plays High Father Leopold. I've got Sage who plays Ume. You've got me who plays Sneaky Alan Menowith, and of course we've got the main star of our show, Dan, who plays Elric.
I figured out to change it just as the credits roll, so I was like, yes, I will have to do that now.
Yeah, and also I couldn't see because I was hiding behind my veils. Hello. So yeah, we have got some questions, haven't we, Andy, that came in pre-submitted. I'm going to take off my joke jumper now. Maybe Andy wants to pop up the first chat while I am doing it.
Can do. Sure. So the first question, and again, those of you who are watching live, obviously, just share your questions in the chat, and we will give you guys priority because you're live. But we do have some lovely questions from Caravan, and the first one is like delightfully massive. What do the players think is going on? Thoughts?
Just in life in general.
I'm guessing, like in terms of plot, in terms of what's going on, with sort of where we're at in LAWhammer.
I mean, we missed our chance to repaint the walls from white to a different color, so it's all downhill from here.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for anyone who is tuning in and is not up to date with our campaign, but we are partway through Empire in Ruins, and so far it's going all to plan. The Empire will be in ruins imminently, we reckon.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Already there. Yeah.
Arguably already there. Okay, here's one from the chat. Watchdog 3079 asks, what has been the most devastating rug pull for the party?
Devastating rug pull.
I think
It's been such a long time.
if Ed was here, I think it's probably Sigfeder dying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we spent a whole side episode like looking for him and believing we could find him and save him, and we followed all these clues and we did really well, and Alan Menowith spent all her money to recruit some helpers to our cause, and then we came back having found out who had taken him, and Magritte was just like, he's dead, sorry. Like, no, not Sigfeder.
I'm trying to think of, I mean, any other big reveals have not really been rug pulls, so to speak. I would say they've been more like foreshadowed or hinted at. I can't think of any moment where I went, Andy, you absolute bastard, except for various other reasons.
Yeah, I think the Castle Wittgenstein one. I think that the revelation that who we thought were the baddies were the goodies and who we thought were the goodies were the baddies, that we basically just helped the Chaos Cult infiltrate one of Magnus the Pious's bastions against the Ruinous powers. That was a pretty big, yeah.
That was pretty devastating.
Yeah. That was our Hans, are we the baddies moment.
We didn't really behave very well afterwards as well, did we? So as a party.
No. Some of us kept stealing Magritte's stuff.
What?
She had no right to that spiritual artifact.
Okay.
She didn't. An elven wheel shard.
I said okay.
I didn't know she'd fucked my Ume's mom and got enough gift out of her. So.
Okay. Here's a thank you for the super chat, Baron von Bastel. What are your favorite sandwich? Not sandwiches, just sandwich.
Sandwich.
It could be a sandwich.
Sandwich, yeah, it's like a cross between a sandwich and a quiche.
It's got my egg mayo, right?
Egg mayo.
Is this character's favorite sandwich?
Oh yeah, let's do character's favorite sandwich.
Do sandwiches exist in Warhammer?
Like Sigmarite, so it's obviously a sausage sandwich for him.
A hot dog.
Yeah, Alemenowitz is obviously the Duke of Tame and the Duke of Ubersreich. Yeah. A Duke sandwich. The big D, what we like.
A big D sandwich, yeah.
D sandwich, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I would probably say Manuel Ferrand and Gorman if we had to pick two of the recent ones.
Gorman would burn the
would
fuck
you?
out of
Sorry. No. But I'm talking about a sandwich where I'm in the middle. Are you saying you want to be in the middle of Emmanuel Ferrand and Gorman? That's an acquired taste.
It's a new level of daddy issues. Okay, we've gone above.
I mean, it's really good that Ed's not here. I think.
Just a typing error meant sandwiches, not sandwich. The quiche.
Is stew a sandwich? Because technically you put it in bread.
Did you say stew?
Yes, stew should be a sandwich, right?
There you go.
There we go.
I mean, that would be the Warhammer equivalent of a sloppy Joe, right?
I guess so.
Sloppy Johan.
Sloppy Johan.
Sloppy Johan.
Yeah.
Find it, you heard it here first. Sloppy Johan is a thing in Warhammer.
It's just stew and bread.
Nice.
I'm in charge tonight.
You're not live on the stream first, right?
Okay, I'm going back up to the top. What's the game plan to try to salvage the mess? I mean, pretending that Andy won't scuttle your plans.
Or sink a floating barge.
I don't think we ever have a game plan. I think that is the point of the party, is just roll with it.
Yeah. Hope that Sigmar gives us some clues, maybe.
Yeah.
And trust the Sigmar's giving us clues in the right way and not the wrong way.
It's worked so far. I mean, we're alive.
Yeah. I think in the immediate aftermath of last time, it's escape Altdorf as outlaws with just like Boris and our Ulrich are going to do. But we'll be with them this time. Yeah, I think leave Altdorf with the Todbringer party and
Katerina
and Katerina, see what the Todbringer faction's immediate plans are. Have Leopold actually share maybe some of the stuff that was going down in Nuln.
I mean, I suppose it's hard to answer as well because of the way the last couple have ended. They've ended very in the middle of it, and then we've picked up days or weeks later.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know until Andy tells us, are we picking up like half an hour later or like 6 hours later or 6 days, 6 weeks, how much time's passed? Because we may not, like the Todbringers may leave and we may not be allowed to leave. We may be, stuck within the palace still, which would change things. Or we may leave with them or nobody may be allowed to leave. Or
well, technically, Elric's employed by the Graf, so he can't be held, right?
Exactly.
Well, but I mean, it depends. Like, I'm sure there are ways,
or immediate prisoner of war. Right?
No, but I think he's the golden boy of the Brights at the moment. He got them into Middenheim. That cannot be understated. I think how much they wanted that, and now they have an inroads into the guild and a presence in there. So.
But now they have it. Like golden boy goes far, right? But actually, once it's done, it's done. If you had the leverage to get them in, you've got a bargaining chip. Once you've got them in, you've got some credit, but.
So I should have just prick teased them the whole way. Should have been like,
exactly.
Maybe I can go have a talk. Maybe.
Exactly. Like all of this, Yume can't be held. Of course, she can't be held against her will because diplomatic immunity. And of course, does the Emperor give a shit?
Yeah, I mean, we've already been held against our will, right?
Like laws are for people who aren't strong enough to break them, and he's the Emperor, so he does whatever he does. Like, I think what we need to do is, in the immediate aftermath of that fight, is attach ourselves to Boris and our Ulrich and leave the chamber with them. Like, okay, we're coming.
Yeah, I think our future lies in Middenheim.
Yeah, probably. Ume's already left because she went investigating who killed Ulrich and stuff. Like, she's left the palace and stuff, but like all of you bozos will have to find a way to get out.
See, I'm a little torn because obviously
Nothing's fine.
From Leopold's perspective,
Just
like
lost.
sure, yeah, Team Middenheim, but obviously he didn't live through all that Middenheim stuff, and he's kind of like, well, but I think the Countess is our best hope for for like a stable empire. Like maybe we should go with her. Not to mention
You're
my
just-
short-term ambition, I think, remains convince her to side with Middenheim. But
You're just blinded by her beauty. I mean, what has she done to convince you that?
no, he's blinded by his lack of eyes.
Say,
Maybe
Potato,
Sigmar also can
potato.
see her.
yeah. Question for Lindsay and Andy from Speedrock. How is it playing knowing so much about the campaign and the overarching plot, and where might it go?
I mean, it's tricky. It was certainly trickier, I would say, at the very beginning, because like I knew Enemy and Shadows very well, Death on the Right pretty well, Power Behind the Throne a little bit. We now have the advantage of I have no idea. Andy is, I think, deviating quite a bit from the published Empire in Ruins book. He's going for what he and Graham originally had planned rather than what was published. But also, I don't know what's in that book. I've not read that book. I'm loosely aware of what was in Empire in Flames, and there was another one. There was a fan-made one. Was it Empire in Chaos?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Like, I know loosely what was in those. You know, there is, as somebody else has popped in the chat, you know, that it's hard not to know that there's a quest involved. It's a retrieve thing, but that might not be the case in the LAWhammer version. Like, Andy's very good at just changing things enough so that either they're different or so that our characters believe they're different, which is functionally the same.
Yeah, like we'd stormed Wittgenstein before, and let me tell you, everything in Wittgenstein was different and flipped. Like when we stormed Wittgenstein years and years and years ago, like I'm talking a long time ago, to the point that it is in the dim and distant memory of my past. You know, like what was her name? Sigri. Like they were good guys. This time they were like flat out corn worshippers. Like so sometimes it's actually actively what.
And that should have been our first clue, right? About the revelations that have come from the Big Rat about like blessings and stuff, because they were out and out corn worshippers and yet favored by Ulrich.
Were they favored by Ulrich?
Well, to Leopold's holy site, he was hearing that, you know, the howl of Ulrich's wolves and the.
Was he hearing the howl of Ulrich's wolves, or was he hearing the howl of Corn's hounds? And does he just not know the difference?
I mean, he spent a lot of time in Middenheim. Right?
Well,
he's encountered a lot of blessings.
And what does that tell you about
But also,
Middenheim?
was this Leopold at that time, or was it?
No,
Shadow?
it was Shadow.
Shadowpold, but Shadowpold knows Leopold stuff, I guess.
But he also would know Corn stuff quite well too.
That is a fair point.
Yeah. I think what our first clue was that they were completely unmutated and untouched by the madness of the magic that infused with Wittgenstein. That should have been our first clue.
100%.
Sorry, I was gonna say, if that place, now that we know, you know, the corn stuff, and knowing that Galmaraz maybe was replaced by a cornite weapon, like is that the true nature of Barakul, and we just never got round to figuring it out?
Absolutely could be. Especially if you think about what Shadowpold potentially did with Barakul, which was jump off something and potentially break magical seals as well as a physical seal. So yeah, totally. And also, I don't know if you recall, but when somebody touched Barakul and told us what it could do with Detect Artifact, and I think it was Magritte, it was on the boat, it was round about the time that we met our Nordlander guy, my character's uncle in the previous game. Yeah, Gausser. When we met Gausser.
That you and I did.
No, I think it was in a mainstream, or maybe it wasn't a side stream, but we were, it was in the side stream. We were told that Barakul drained magic.
Yeah, it was in our
like
side
it
stream.
sucked all the magic. Yeah.
You saw it suck the magic in.
Yeah, it sucked all the magic, which Alamenawith then used to their in the place in the Shining Rock when all the magic was going wild. She tried to put it between. That was her thinking, that it would suck the magic away.
Yeah, and I mean, I still hope, like, if we are gonna, like, if there is if there, first of all, if there even is such a thing as a real Galmaraz, and it wasn't the case that Galmaraz has always been somehow like had a bound demon in it or whatever it is, And if there is such a thing we want, and if we are going to go on a quest to try and find it, like I kind of hope we go via that monastery that Sister Habercorn told Leopold about, the one with all the knowledge about runefangs and stuff, and the evidence of runefangs and Galmaraz having changed and having looked different. Like if we're wanting clues about whether there was a swap made with Galmaraz, that seems like a good place to go.
Yeah.
And it will pay off that thing. Well, the Leopold knows where it is, and I have a feeling it's like, is it like Talabheim, or I have a feeling it was somewhere over there, like the Monastery of the Words. But I think that'd be a good place to go, be an interesting place to go, and it might help. Like the big mystery that for me that's hanging over Leopold's head is, in terms of the nature of Sigmarism, and I'm like, you know, what this just what? But the hammer that he keeps hearing, the tung 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 tung, like it feels like that might be tied to the runefangs, and the fact that he gets smacked in the head every time a runefang gets drawn with the name of it, like that like why, right? There must be some innate connection there. Like, is the runefangs what makes Sigmar divine, right? You know, is there some kind of like magical shell game going on? I don't know, but I feel like that monastery might be able to tell us. It also might be terrible because of the whole, like, some of them can't speak, some of them can't hear, some of them can't see, that there may be stuff that's like written, but Leopold can't read it because he's blind. But yeah.
There are some more questions, but there's a few super chats I will go to. So thank you as always. And yeah, Astereth is ducking out. Thanks for saying we all rock. Come back when you've caught up and join the Discord, be in the Discord and ask questions there if you need to. So who's the most chaotic person of the group? Definition of chaotic is up to your interpretation.
Okay. It's definitely Kath, because she's not, she can't defend herself.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think everyone's chaotic in their own way. I think.
Yeah. Kath does come out with some bangers every now and again. She'll be like, I'm gonna pick up the orb of magic. No, like.
Yeah. It's Ed and Kath. It's Ed and Kath.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I'm not going to let Sage get away with that. I think quite often Sage is quite often our most chaotic person. Just thinking of times you just stolen things for no reason from important NPCs that have led to Alamenoith being hunted through Sage. That type of thing. You guys are looking like you don't remember that. Do you not remember that?
We've never done anything wrong, Alamenoith and Ume together.
Well, you have the advantage for me of not watching the side stream, so I don't know what they do, but I know it's horrific. No, I know other things as well. Like I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
What happened?
In the main side stream, where we were in, I think it was Bergenhafen, and we were in a town. We were trying to talk to like a burgomaster or a magistrate or something, and while we were in their office, Sage just nicked something off their desk for the lulz, which led he yelled guards, and you started getting chased by the guards. I think that was pre-stream. It
must have been pre-stream, right?
That was the sausage town. It was in.
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson since then.
Yeah, and to be fair, you have transformed, and now you're only chaotic with intent.
Yeah, I would say. Sorry, you go, Sage.
I was going to say, I do remember that time that I ended up in like a cultist, gambling, they were counting cash or whatever, and I was just like, yeah, give me the cash.
That was amazing. That was my favorite moment, because that led to us Alamenoith straight up murdering a really high ranking purple hand chaos sorcerer, just because Ume had just decided to go off on a random side quest. It was brilliant. I loved that.
It was awesome.
I think there's also a difference between the most chaotic person, as in player, and most chaotic character.
Yeah.
And there's also a difference between the most chaotic character, small c, and the most chaotic character, large c. The two most chaotic characters, large c, are related to probably the players, and that is Ed and Kath's characters. Gerhardt and Birdie, because I'm sure they've got the most corruption points by far. They're well over their limit.
Absolutely. And I would suggest in the Venn, the multifaceted Venn diagram of what you just spoke about, I would argue Ed is probably on aggregate the winner.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was going to do this stream entirely in character, but I decided not to. You'll all be glad to know.
The thing is, like, I don't disagree that Ed may be the most chaotic, but I don't think he plans anything, and that's for me what makes it even more chaotic. It's purely this has appeared on the top of my head, and now I'm going to say it, and now this is going to be a thing, and then
the very definition of chaos.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah, I think Alemenowithe purposefully tries to be chaotic to like mix it up and be unpredictable. So she's purposefully trying in a way to be more chaotic than chaos, which to her mind is really predictable because somebody, the avatar of a all-seeing god, has seen all the outcomes. So she's like, it's entirely predictable. Everything's predictable. Okay, here we go. The question. I'm going to let Sage answer this. I've been curious, how did Sage join the cast? If memory serves, you were a late addition. I love this. And I've never heard how you all met. Was Andy a fan? Big fan. Andy
Sage
was
joined against all of our wishes. We all remember the glory days. Back when at Party of Five, what a dream it was.
Everyone voted and Dan was ignored. No. I met Lindsay. And Lindsay was doing a presentation at work. And she was cool, and I was like, we must be friends. Yeah, that's how we met. And then later on, you needed another player, so I came along and had it wasn't an interview, but we had a chat, Andy, Lindsay, and I, to see if I fit the vibe. And I was deemed acceptable.
It was really serendipitous, wasn't it? I mean, obviously we'd known each other for a little while. I was mentoring you, etc. So like we had a professional relationship, like as well as I think you're cool.
Yeah.
It was a good
presentation.
presentation.
Side hair from the other side of the office, and we're like, yes.
I can't remember, there was something I said in the presentation and you were just like, yes, you are my people. It's lost to time.
Do you remember your first session with us?
Gosh.
Oh god.
I remember it.
Do you?
Yeah.
What did we do?
We had a battle royale.
Oh, yeah.
We just wanted to get Sage up to speed on the combat, and we had all the
Was
little
that-
Lego figures, and Elric had skis on and a gun. It was great.
Was
I
that
don't
the
remember
one?
who won it. I remember the first battle royale was Leopold won it, but I don't remember who won that one.
I won quite a few in the pre-stream because of battle royales because of my elf bow. Like I think that's where elf bullshit started, actually.
No, elf bullshit started from the very first session, I think. With fucking Alemenowithe telling Elric, "Oh, I was born near obsidian, so I experienced magic."
I mean, to be fair, if you think about it in a certain way, she is depleted compared to previous incarnations of herself.
Elf bullshit.
I actually really love, though, that their vibe and their kind of backwards and forwards has grown from that. So, he'll never, really forgive her for that, and she'll never get over trying to make him forgive her for that. But that's now how they've bonded over this.
He bought you a scarf. You're pretty much forgiven.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Right at the end, he'll still be like, "You lied to me, Alan." And she'll be like,
as he's dying.
On his deathbed.
Yeah. And on his deathbed,
I never forgave you.
Yeah. Have you seen Free Ren? No, like that. And she'll be coming back and being like, "Hey, I'm really sorry about that. I brought you some obsidian." Okay.
That's just having salt in the wounds, that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Have you met Alemenowithe? How would Elric fix magic in the Zen War?
What's the Zen War?
I don't understand what the Zen War is, so we'll come back to that one. You'll need to. You'll need. It's okay. It's okay. There's a correction in the Empire.
Oh. Ooh.
That's a hell of an autocorrect.
I mean, I guess his background is magic has just been part of who he is and is the people that are around him.
Yeah.
He's lived with a bunch of hippies basically in a commune. That's kind of his raising, and they've always just channeled regardless of specific magic wins or whatnot. So I think that would be what he would want to go back to. He has evidence, I guess, or lived proof that channeling multiple winds does not corrupt inherently, although it can lead to corruption. So I guess he would be, and obviously he's met Sigfeder, he's learned about the swordfish, he's learned about all these people who are doing it. So I think his goal would be to legalize channeling multiple winds. But
I think you made that.
It's his long term.
You made that his long term ambition, because and how he gets there, and in a way to get there, you kind of need to overcome the Sigmarite infused prejudice of witches. Like, as long as you view any person who can use magic like they are a walking radioactive like little bomb.
And I mean, Altor's in a great spot for it right now, so maybe he'll just run out and be like, "Hey, buzz, I can channel multiple winds. Try and burn me." I mean, it might sound crazy, but I think he's got to be a patriarch. I think to push or get a patriarch on side, because Dan is fairly convinced. I think Elric's fairly convinced as well that everyone is channeling multiple winds. They're just very savvy about it.
Yeah, or they don't realize it. So they're all channeling multiple winds if you can see the winds like he can. So that's maybe the way that he gets it. He could get it more accepted. So say actually is actually and a little bit of an orangey wind that's like, and a little bit of another wind, but humans can't distinguish that, then him being able to distinguish it might be the first set of academic papers that allows him to demonstrate that bright magisters are already safely channeling three winds. They're just like in the same color.
Yeah, he's got
the spectrum.
I think he's working on some theories with Shaman, because it seems to be that made a lot of sense to him when he was working in the forges in the Gold College. It just seemed to, I guess he senses things through, about that back at the time he didn't have a sight, but he sensed through absence, and he could feel the Shaman winding, or no, could feel the actually winding with something that he couldn't sense at that time. So it would be interesting. But legalize it.
Magic color theory.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of thinking. Like, wouldn't it be interesting if it was safe to channel, like a blue wind, a green wind, like winds that would combine to, and obviously it might not be the same as color theory. So, like light color, additive color theory, additive colors are different to subtractive colors in the way they make different colors. What if there's a third one that you have to discover as Elric, which is like magitive colors, and so those are the ones that then make like harmonious combinations, and it might be really counterintuitive. So it might be like orange and blue in magic makes a really pleasant hue, and in the real world it makes what, like brown, like it just makes sludge.
Maybe
that would be interesting. I think. Yeah, Elric needs to meet a blood dragon-blooded Shugengun to learn how Cathane see magic. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, we all know Yume's dad was not reliable in his description of all the winds. We did. I think we got some good info, but I just don't know how far that info will go.
He missed one of them apparently.
Yeah, he only. I'm sure he only had 19.
Yeah, it's like a basis for experimentation or research. Let's call it research. Experimentation is usually unsafe. Right. Agar89. First, I love watching you guys play. Thank you so much. We love being able to play with people watching us. Well, I mean, I do, because I'm a narcissist, so, you know. the other people, who cares what they feel? On my second playthrough of LAWhammer, second, how is it mixing newer players and older players, especially with half the group working on the rule set?
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the rules we're playing now are not the 4th edition rules as written. So,
like,
it was definitely. Oh, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, like, of the 6 players, let's say, 3 of us, I guess, had a history in Warhammer. I was a little nerd as a kid and was just always hanging around Games Workshop. But I know Sage, Ed, and Kath, it was their first time in universe. So I don't think the rules were so much because the system isn't so bad and we were rewriting it as we went and making suggestions anyway. But I think the lore and in-universe stuff is the challenge in Warhammer because it's such a rich history of everything that when you're playing, even though I know some stuff, when I'm playing with people who've written parts of the universe in and lived it for, 20, 30 years, it's a bit different.
Yeah. Like I often said that when we were writing 4th edition, it was like writing memories down from your life. Like I was just like, oh, well, we're writing this bit. Oh, well, I'll just write down like the experiences I've had over the last 10 years as we've like built a world together, which was an amazing experience. And I think also that I think it's been hardest for Ed because Gerhardt is the most and he'll say this, like he'll put his hands up and say he would know the most nobles' names and he would know the most herald and he would know all of that. And sometimes he struggles. He's like, but I don't know that. And Andy will get him to, I will explain it to him. But each of the characters who are the players who don't know so much have something that kind of gives them a pass. And in Ed's case, it's that Gerhardt is an absent-minded genius. And also, as it turns out, possibly not Gerhardt, so anything can just be like in and out. I have to be really careful because like I'll be penalized if I use stuff that I know out of character by accident because it's Alamenawythe, the original, slipping through, and that's dangerous. I think, Sage, for you, obviously Ume's from Nippon, so you don't necessarily have the depth of knowledge, and she's quite young, so you don't have the depth of knowledge of the Empire. And Kath's character was literally raised like underground by Skaven, so if she gets things wrong about the human world, it's fine.
Yeah.
The rules weren't too bad. Like having played other TTRPG systems, like you get that after, and we played for a while before the stream. So
yeah, that was it. We did a long bit, and like the early rule stuff when the rules were closer to the core rules, particularly. Like I think it was quite useful because it meant like Lindsay and I were slightly easier to coach. People who like Kath really wasn't used to, really didn't get the system, so it was really useful to have someone sitting next to kind of coaching. Obviously, as the rules have changed more, I think we were of increasingly less use in terms of that kind of side of things. Witnessed the multiple times where I've very confidently said a rule and then it's like that rule's changed, and I'm like, oh, okay, great. I will now look up. As is apparently my career, as I just discovered this week. But yeah.
Oh, so I'm so sorry I didn't see this, but yeah, you are going to get spoiled if you're only at season 1, episode 9.
Boy,
sorry.
Are you going to get spoiled?
Yeah.
Anything more to add to that one?
I mean, I suppose I would just say, like, in terms of my like world knowledge, like lore knowledge, there's a reason why we said Leopold was from Ubersreich, because I obviously know Ubersreich very well. I've written that setting book, and we just thought, well, that makes sense. Anything I know from Ubersreich, Leopold just knows because he lived in Ubersreich, and that made that quite easy. And then anything in terms of like out of character stuff from earlier games, like Andy might have changed that, but also B, I don't really remember a lot of those details because I've not actively tried to recall them. So I have the opposite problem, which is, Andy will expect me to remember something from 2, 3, 4 sessions ago, and I'll be like, I have read so many essays since then. I do not remember what was said on a Friday 8 weeks ago. Like, no, sorry.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I have that problem too. I think for me, having made a lot of the Nippon lore, it kind of allows me. Sometimes I'll invent something at the table, and then I'll be making eye contact with Andy just to be like, if he's like, no, stop it, then I have to like stop mid-sentence. But it hasn't happened really.
I think I've missed a cheer. We were talking about what the thingies are. Cheers. They don't come up as starred in this first on StreamYard the same way as the YouTube ones. Amadeus Arkham's one for you, Dan. Is there a difference between Elric wanting to live free, have his destiny, and Dan wanting to know what this is all about, or did I misread Elric? I feel like the last time his destiny plotline was explored was his side stream with the Amethyst Magister, where Felonia Pearl sent him.
Felonia Pearl!
No, I don't think there is any correlation with that. And I think to hold my hand up and say there's a lot of Elric's background and story hasn't been done just because I haven't got the time to do the side streams. Which is the other in my evenings are always usually busy. So I do think there's lots that Andy and I could do. And also one of our great side sessions, there was no sound recorded at all. Literally like 45 minutes of a really good chat with him and crazy bright wizard magic woman from Vermintide.
Sienna,
yeah. He had an amazing like chat with her, but unfortunately the audio completely bugged out. But no, Elric is still living in his fuck prophecy. It will not determine who he is, but it's very likely going to determine who he is. And I do feel that Maven's going to appear shortly or eventually and have big impacts.
Yeah.
So
like my favorite thing with it is how like how neo he is about it all. In that, like Maven is clearly doing the Oracle thing from the original Matrix to him, and yet just like Neo, he just can't see it, and sadly Leopold is clearly like no Trinity or Morpheus or whoever it was who pointed out to it, because I have pointed out to you and it hasn't landed, and I've been like, okay, cool, will be.
Now there is something I guess planned that Andy and I talked about early on in Elric's character creation that is yet to appear, and I think that will be potentially a moment for him, but has the how and when, who knows? He might die before that. Although
I hope not.
Can I ask
How many fate points have you got? Sorry, just 3.
Actually, I think I've got 3.
Yeah.
He has the most. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, sorry, just need to read this out. It's breaking news. I'm not going to make it, unfortunately, says Ed.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
I nominate Dan to answer all my questions for me, and they're considered canon. So I think we know exactly who the most chaotic player is right now. It's Ed.
Just in case people were wondering, Gerhardt has a chode.
Elric would know.
Yeah, that's why Alan Menowith calls his dad the Big D, right?
Yeah. And Gerhardt is the wide D.
Yeah.
I had a question for you about, so when like a couple of times now Leopold has seen Elric. Yeah, the antlers, and he saw like a vision prophecy of that a long time ago, and then in the Storm of Magic, and then I think once since then he's kind of seen that, and with like Azir crackling around the horns and all that kind of stuff. Like, you don't need to give us any details. In fact, you can just decline and take the Fifth Amendment if you want. But like, is that in any way tied into any of the stuff you and Andy had done, or is this new? Was that new to you as well?
I'm not. I think it might be, but I'm not fully cognizant, or I'm not knowledgeable enough as to where we want to go with it. But I think it does probably have something to do with a thing that we talked about early on in character generation.
I look forward to seeing that play out.
Okay, how many spells are needed to heal the Andy? Many spells.
6? Isn't that his number?
88. Watchdog. Which NPC is your party's Gandalf?
I mean, it's Sigfeather, right? Like,
Sigfeather.
Yeah. Although, like, if you think about the Genesis, it's kind of Alemenowith, in that she's the one that came knocking to Leopold and then went round gathering them.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it depends. Are we talking Gandalf in The Hobbit, or are we talking Gandalf in Lord of the Rings? Because if it's Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, it's Sigfeather, because he disappeared into the realm of chaos and then has returned as Sigfeather the White.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas if it's The Hobbit, then it's definitely Alemenowith who's gone around leaving marks on our doors and bringing everybody together. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although she's like she's just like a terrible Gandalf. Not that, yeah. Like, her magic is about terrible Gandalf, yeah. Are there, LF Flux, were there any alternatives for Elric or directions you wanted to take Elric that you didn't take? Also, can we get cat lore? Did Fid pop up? Is that why they're asking for cat lore?
Yeah, Fid has run away now. Yeah, my cat is Fiddler. He is an absolute little bastard, but I still love him. He is literally, I don't know if it will show up on the camera, but he clawed the fuck out of my arm earlier today, just for no reason. There were, I mean, me and Andy built Elric, what was it, April 22, I think. I think that's when we, like, around Easter time, I think, is when we started doing the character and then the little chats. So I can barely remember 2 weeks ago, so asking me to go back then is tough. I think he did give me a couple of different paths for Elric, but I don't remember what they are. But I just remember kind of disregarding them the second that the current Elric that we know came up in terms of being a member of the Grunfelds and being tied to the old Druidic order. I really, really like that. And I like the fact that they were also, you know, everywhere, that they were infiltrating the colleges for good reasons, seemingly. But yeah, once I heard that, there was no other way that I was going to run Elric.
Hendrik Verbeek. Did you expect the campaign to go so crazy? Yes, absolutely. And when was the moment you first went, this is proper mental? This isn't proper mental yet.
No, exactly.
I mean, getting hit for 42 wounds in session 1 kind of sucked.
Yeah, if you guys think this is proper mental, wait till you see Paths of the Old One, and like, you've probably never heard Andy Law talk about any of our previous games that were truly proper mental. I mean, there's a reason Alamenowith's like, hey, right, see if the Storm of Shentek's gonna just leave like a Storm of Azir here. Why don't we just move the world, guys? Let's just do it.
Yeah. No, definitely not saying we've done that before.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I mean, it depends on what you mean by proper mental, because like that escape from Castle Wittgenstein where the warp soul bombs were going off, that was pretty.
And you know
also
what?
Another
What's
kind
the
of big moment there, Sage, that you might want to bring up as well. Your pet demon became awakened.
I dreamed the escape from Castle Wittgenstein with like all bombs exploding and stuff, and that was mad. So yeah, that was proper mental, both in character and in my dream.
Yeah. There's some revelations about the fox that if you've watched Alamenowith and Ume's side stream recently, might make it come back into play soon. All because of Alamenowith and her big mouth.
I helped.
You did. But unfortunately that might not help us as a party.
We don't know that. Maybe it'll be positive. Love watching LAWhammer Enemy Within. Oh, thank you. I am close to starting Death on the Right. So have you any times? I'm not quite sure what you mean by this. So
tips maybe?
Tips probably.
For weaving in character backstory into the main storyline, so it doesn't feel like 5 different stories happening at once. Oh, do you mean you're close to starting Death on the Right with your playing group? We really need Andy Law to help us answer those questions. What do we think?
I mean, I think a big part of it is if you've got characters who, like, it's not just character backstory, right? Character backstory is useful for telling you who the character is, but you also need to think about who does the character want to be, what are the character's goals and aspirations, and if you've fleshed all of that stuff out, then it's just a question of looking at it and going, how do they align, how do they clash, how do they intersect, and then looking at the cities or towns you're going to go to, look at the encounters you're going to have, look at the NPCs you're going to have, and go, how does that work? Like it might sound like I'm being flippant, but what I mean by that is if you actually just sit down and, for me, I physically draw it out. But actually, if you do that, it's actually not very hard. It just requires a little bit of forethought and not just winging it. The hardest part is often making your players think about their characters that way, because there will be some players who aren't used to thinking about, you know, what is that character's belief in terms of the spirituality of their gods, and you know, those aren't always the kind of questions that players and GMs have conversations about. Often it's about, can I have a +2 vorpal sword or whatever, and that's not the kind of conversation you want to have if you want a kind of background like that. be my.
Also,
my
I think Defin Reich with the barge and everything is a great opportunity to have moments of journeying around in a place that you keep with you that you can customize as you go along. You know, we ended up doing some trading. Like there's more flavor and role playing that can be done around that without it just being like, and then you get to the next town, and then you get to the next town. You know, like if you fill out those middle bits, that can help.
Yeah, Andy also did some stuff with us where we got to pick characters sometimes. So there's almost like an element of like yes and sort of improvisation. So he was like, you can have a character that you knew really well, you can have a character that owes you a favor. Those weren't what it was, but that's kind of what it was like. And so you could sort of intervene in the story. And so I used one of mine on Johannes Teugen, or did I use it? And essentially was able to say, you know how I was going to get somebody who Alamenowith had met, because Teugen went to university, and Nuln, someone who she'd met in Nuln, who would have been a student, who she'd met in a bar. I wanted to be him. So I was then able to, as part of the main storyline, weave in my character's backstory of how I'd worked in that, while I was a sewer jack, I'd worked in that inn, and I'd collected stories from people as currency for future blackmail material, and was able to then weave that into the main story by saying, look, Teugen, like we knew each other, don't do this. Unfortunately, because I made the bad choice of bringing all the other players and the characters in with me who started to intervene, like I never quite got to the, and I think that's totally natural. Like you're not going to have a heart-to-heart about someone's past, like Dan, we're not going to meet your friend from when you were a kid and expect you to be able to pick up with them where you left off if you've got like 5 random people in the room with you. Yeah. So yeah, it was as Alamenowith, I've made a lot of mistakes, I would say. And afterwards I'm like, oh, it was like what a misjudge. Oh, I should have done that.
But
that's a natural thing, because that's what happens in real life.
Yeah, exactly. Like the other week, when my instinct was to get Alamenowith to move towards Boris, I realised that actually I wish I'd just tried to talk the kid down and just been like, yeah, you can still be emperor, like, and just like blathered at him and been like, yeah, the emperor said you can still be emperor. Let's just come out of this room. But in the moment, like, you just don't make clear-headed decisions.
Yeah, when we had that opportunity to, pick an NPC that pops up that we can say, I've got a relationship with them. Like, I did think it was funny that I obviously picked being like a really good friend with Gausser, and then like not seen him since. Oh, every time we're like, Reichsguard, is Gausser there? No. Okay. Oh, we're up north. Is Gausser there? No. Motherfucker. I overshot. I picked too useful an NPC, so therefore we'll never get to use that NPC.
I mean, I picked that Ranaldon guy that got us out of Bogenhafen, and then that was it. So
yeah, well, I would disagree, but like I would disagree. I don't do not give the impression that Andy's the kind of GM who's like, oh, he's picked a useful NPC, I'm never going to let him meet them, because that's what I think people could take from that impression. Yeah. Like if we met him,
I meant he's
no, I get that. Yeah. That's what I mean. But I just thought people could get from that maybe like Andy took us out the way of that NPC. No, absolutely not. If we had been in Gausser's orbit, Andy would have been like, yeah, there you go, have this guy. And then like years later, we would have found out he was like stabbing us in the back, probably. But whatever.
Or stabbing you guys in the back.
Yeah, to protect you, obviously, because he loves you so much. Damn it. Okay. Oh yeah, channel. Patrick Star. Let's just move the world somewhere else. I'm not very good with pop culture references.
I will Google Patrick Star. I don't know who.
I think it's SpongeBob. I think.
Yeah, oh, okay.
SpongeBob.
Yes,
I don't know
it's a character from SpongeBob.
Thanks.
Do they move the thing they live in?
That went way over my head.
Hendrik Verbeek asked, did you ever realize something about your character which was not there during creation? Can you elaborate? I could go on all night, so I won't. Because there's always something more. Like, I don't know stuff about Alamenowith that Alamenowith knows, because Alamenowith has multiple identities that she sort of keeps secret from herself. like that's the psychological trick that someone on the Path of Shadows is doing. So it's easier to do that if Lindsay doesn't know. So I'm constantly realizing stuff about Amenawith, reasons she did things, what I actually meant, what someone who spoke to me actually meant. Like there's so much more about her backstory to come out, about the people she's met, people we've met in time that she's met and like been with for years that like nobody, like we haven't admitted on stream and stuff. So there's loads.
I mean, I don't know about you all, but like I gave Andy lots of little tidbits of things that he could then develop however he wanted and like fit into the story, right? So like I know like the fox, it's a spirit that Ume met when she was a kid and saved, and it hangs out with her, was all I told Andy, and then the rest of the stuff he added in himself. So of course it was a reveal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Finch,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I'm trying to think if I, like, I mean, there was one thing I may have spoken about this before, maybe on a Rickery stream. There was a thing that it was there at creation, but it changed. So like Leopold's whole visions thing, like that came from a disagreement I had with Andy about the priest career and how I felt the priest career should have. I forget which of the two skills it was now, but not perception, but the other one.
Intuition. You felt intuition.
Because I felt a priest like
knows people,
if their
not
congregation.
things. Yeah,
exactly. If their career and the career has subsequently been changed, but at that point the career didn't have that in it. And since we had a bit of control over our chaotic blood traits, I took a chaotic blood trait that would let me have intuition in my careers because I felt Leopold should have that. He's good at reading people. And that meant he got some sense of visions of people's death. And that then put Leopold into the orbit of potentially becoming an augur. At which point, Andy, for those of you who watched that stream, presented me with the Faustian pact of you can choose at this point to enter the augur career and you will know that your visions definitely come from Sigmar or not. At which point, so it was there at career, but not in a significant way. It was just it was an excuse to get a skill, and it was sort of a motivation for Leopold in terms of why he wanted to stop the world ending, because he could see from everybody's fates that everybody was about to die in some point in the next 10 years or so. But it's become a much bigger part of the character as a result of that. So.
Elric started off, I don't think Sage would have been in the party at this, but the whole reason that he was attached to Dara was because she was a bookish dwarf nerd. And Elric at that time, we had written him as he did not like studying. He was all intuition-based magic. But then as we went on, I think we realized that he's better off actually being the nerd in the Bright College. And that's why that he was such an outcast, because he was actually smarter than a lot of them. So that was kind of a change that we never really had planned. It just kind of came organic when we started. I think it was one of the first times we did like a redo of the character. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't feel right anymore that I have all this. But I don't think there was anything else. I think some of his brashness is probably just more so me rather than Elric.
No, I don't believe
it.
it.
It fits.
Yeah, it fits.
It fits a Bright Magister. It's great for a Bright Magister. And you get off with a lot of stuff because you're a Bright Magister that a normal human wouldn't get off with.
But I think he's quite tame compared to Brights.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
even
absolutely.
more off-throwing is,
compared to some Brights, he's really, like...
What was it the other week with Wolfgang? And Wolfgang was bad-mouthing everyone, and Elric's the only cool head, whereas... if that's Gorman in the room, I think the room is going on fire, Yeah, so.
I love that moment between Elric and Amenawith because, they give each other a bit of a hard time. But like when the Wolfgang said something like really awful about Katerina, and Elric literally just like grabbed her and held her, and she was like, "Yep, yeah, thanks." I'd like for the Bright Magister to be the one who was just like, you have to calm down.
Yeah, calm your emotions.
Yeah. It was really nice.
What about the stuff about, the shaman and the forging and stuff? Like, did you think about that from the start, or has that come?
No, that was definitely not in his plan at all. That was kind of... I think it led from... I think it was a conversation that he had with... it was Tame's daughter. Can't even remember her name. I am
Greta.
tonight.
Greta.
Yeah, Greta kind of told him, like, get your shit together, pick a path, stick to it.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of realized what was he filling in for. And obviously he's DPS of the party, but that's not necessarily a fulfilling thing for him. He doesn't like
killing things. Yeah.
So I think seeing that and like seeing, cool, well, Leopold's had his breastplate broken like 3 times by now. Wouldn't it be cool if I could fix it? So I think it came from there, and it kind of gave him a little bit of a kick to try something different. But yeah, that was completely organic.
Of course, the delicious irony is, since you learned how to forge, his breastplate has not been broken.
No, everyone's got full plate and it's all perfect. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I've got a little hammer here. Anyone want a crappy dagger?
in all realism, like, it would get dented and nicked, so he probably is repairing our kit.
Yeah. Because I'm assuming, I mean, Ed's not here, but his doctor stuff, I'm pretty sure, was stuff he developed as the campaign happened as well, right? His plan wasn't.
Yeah.
I can answer that for Ed. No, he didn't plan it. Andy told him he had to do it.
He did not.
Yeah,
it's canon. Ed said so.
It's canon. Ed did not want to go into the doctor class. He wanted to become a circus performer. He wanted to stay in Bogenhafen.
He wanted to train poodles, I think. It was really clever dogs. Yeah, he wanted to train poodles to do tricks.
Yeah, and Andy just wasn't having it. So unfortunately, we've ended up with a crappy doctor.
Yeah. Do you know, that's a really good example, though, of like what in hindsight feels like a path that was inevitable, but actually, if we'd done something slightly different, Dr. Flaster might have died, she might not have come with us. Who was the other person that was on the boat? There was Blutilda, there was Dr. Flaster, but there was another person, Renate, who left. She was only there very briefly, and the reason I remember her is because in a previous run-through, a very different version, Renate stayed with us and piloted the barge and became part of the company like Blutilda did. But Renate, it was Renate, Blutilda and Dr. Flaster were the 3 we found, and Lucas, the ones we found in the cabin, and Renate just like left in tame. Like, if we'd made different decisions, we would have had a Renate, not a Blutilda. And who knows what would have happened? Who knows who she could have been?
Yeah, if we hadn't killed Dr. Flaster's brother by mistake.
We didn't kill him.
We gave the information that led to his death. Anyway, I need to get through. Thank you so much for giving us all the super chats and the cheers. I need to get on to a few more of them. Aliflux, relationships with gods. Andy, have you ever given thought to the regionality of Sigmarism? Like, how is Nullner Sigmarism different from Reiklander?
Like, yes, but it's not just regional. Like, it's to do with all the different orders. Like, the big orders, the Order of the Torch particularly, is empire-wide. And since so much of Sigmarism is, like, socially conservative, is about defense, about staying safe, staying in your towns, doing what the nobles tell you to do, respecting the chain of command. So I think, like, the Order of the Torch is pretty consistent in their teachings across the whole empire. I think where you get the variation is in those little separate orders. So, like, we made the decision that Leopold would be from the Order of the Silver Flame, and from Middenheim. So, his order has slightly different beliefs about the Silver Flame than the rest of the Sigmarites. Like most Sigmarites don't think Magnus walked through the Silver Flame. The Silver Flame do think he walked through the Silver Flame. Leopold now knows he did not walk through the Silver Flame. So,
Yeah, but also, like, for the Order of the Torch, there's a big difference between their experience and their relationship with the populace in Talabheim, where Sigmarism had been outlawed, compared to Reichland, where it's essentially like your main faith, compared to in Middenheim, where, Ulricanism, and then like go over to Ostland, where Ulricanism is so strong, but also Sigmarism's got a real, like, sort of strength there as well. So there are those differences.
But I don't think that fundamentally changes the tenets of those orders.
Oh, no, for sure. But it definitely changes the relationship of the populace with Sigmarism.
And I think had Leopold, had we not gone for the Silver Flame and Middenheim, had Leopold not been a Reich, I mean, we had to kind of convolute his backstory as to how he got from Ugersreich up to Middenheim as well, which then became quite a fun story. But had he been in Nuln's side, then yeah, it would have been very different. It would be a very different order. He probably wouldn't have, because originally he wasn't going to be a warrior priest. Originally he was going to be in the Order of the Torch. And as we talked through what would make sense for the character, we're like, well, actually he would leave there and go, and actually that would probably mean a warrior order would make sense if it's Middenheim, and that's how he ended up becoming who he became. So. Yeah.
I'd like to dispute this. Hard to imagine the elf pulling a "you shall not pass" moment instead of choosing to stealth Aether and let the Balrog chase the party and said, "I think you'll find." When I had that moment of stealth Aethering and whipping out Barakul to try to recover Peak Leveler Carrick Zorna's, Alamena Wythe stood up to her responsibility and charged that warlord in the back, to be fair, but still charged him.
Yeah, you might stealth Aether, let the Balrog run past her, then backstab him.
Yeah, she'd nip round the back of the Balrog. That's what she'd do. Yeah. Here's a cheer. The cheers are harder to see, so if I do miss one, do another one that's not a cheer, or someone else tell me. Just give me a wave. I don't know how you'll wave to me. I can't see you, but whatever. Yeah, Dan will wave to me.
Just type wave in the chat as well.
Type wave in the chat. What is Ume's relationship to Renald and her faith? After all these shenanigans, she grew quite a lot and now even wears willingly the responsible role of royalty. I love Ume's journey. There's so much more of her journey to go as well, isn't there?
Yes, for sure. No, I really enjoyed the way she's grown over time. Because if you think about it, it's not even been a full year. So for somebody to go from, I think the main thing with that is that when she first met the party, she almost regressed for a little while. She acted more innocent and more childlike as a point of safety, especially because Gerhard was there. When she wasn't like that, she'd been a crooked finger for years, like she's not actually that innocent. But
it was a facade
to survive.
Yes. A facade.
So I don't know. I think Renald was always like her safety blanket, her thing, right? Her independence. And now she's seeing Renald as part of her lineage and how she never really had the choice to be herself, because of her conversation with her dad being like, yeah, we all had rebellious past. We actually encourage it in the imperial family, so that when you come to make the decision, like they all do at some point, whether to fall to chaos or not, you have lived a life and know the stakes, of falling or not. So in a sense, she almost feels like this was always leading her back to this place. She's almost like not the avatar, but the linked to the Nipponese version of the fox goddess, them probably, who has a very similar background to Renald, but it's not quite the same. So yeah, it's complicated, and she doesn't know enough lore theology really to figure it out. It's just all vibes at the moment. But I think we're slowly going, like, I've noticed every time she crits, it goes further and further closer to the Nipponese side of things. Andy narrates more Nippon fox stuff, which to me implies that, we're digging closer to that side of her.
Nice.
We're not old. We're just highbrow. Yeah, we do need
too old for SpongeBob memes.
But... Yeah, we do need Sotek's Skibbity Riz. We also hope you guys finish. We do want to do Paths of the Old One. What is Magritte really up to?
Do we all want? Because this is one of Caravan's questions as well. Is want our current characters to continue on to Paths of the Old Ones?
100% yes.
One, do not.
100% yes. There's still, I would happily play other characters. I've got a few that I would happily play, and that's one of the fun things about the side streams where we get to play other characters that I already like know from the world. And Andy's like, you're playing that person, but this is the tweak. That this is what they're like in this world. But definitely, I still want to play Alaminowith for the Path of the Old Ones. So, and I've got like three fate points now. I think like I'm obviously they can go in an instant, but yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. No, go ahead, Andy.
He might not die, but if not, like I've talked through with Andy, if he survives, and he might get his big damn hero moment and die, but if he doesn't, I've talked through Andy like what his journey might be into NPCdom at the end of this campaign. So,
yeah. I wouldn't be averse to playing Elric, but I kind of would like him just to have a happy ending. I know that sounds so naive, but. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely got one or two character ideas for a second campaign, but if I end up bringing Elric along, that's totally fine as well. I don't know how well. I know he'll do well in the Heat. Dan would not do well in Lustria. Dan would die the second he steps into Lustria.
It might be a fun journey in Path of the Old Ones. Tropical holiday.
We don't, but like, just to be clear, like people that are speculating will go to Lustria. We don't know that, and even if there's rumors that might happen, like that adventure isn't published. No one knows what it is. It may not be what you all expect / hope it will be. I'll just put that big disclaimer there. Yeah, two people know.
Andy and Gav know. No one else knows.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Sotek has an inkling, that's all.
I have had some conversations with Andy about if we do take Ume to Path of the Old Ones, because of course there's already some foreshadowing about Path of the Old Ones here that's related to Nippon. So I think it would be cool. I would like to know what that's about. It doesn't necessarily have to be Ume though. We could take somebody else who's Nipponese. Or just go for a completely different angle. So I don't know. I like Ume. I would like to see more of her character growth. I wouldn't want her to die or anything. But if she becomes an NPC and we watch her be a badass somewhere else, that's also fine.
I'll go back to this one, what is Magritte really up to? Can she be trusted?
Who the fuck
Who knows?
Who knows? I mean,
I think
Andy's thing, the good bad thing.
Yeah.
The other day we used it and it was a cultist, but it had been good. You remember? Kind of puts everything back on the table because she has been shown as good by the Loophole Vision, but that could mean anything now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
which was the cultist that you saw was good?
I think like it's not it didn't happen on stream. It was like narrated as it happened between.
Yeah, and I think it was someone who we thought didn't necessarily know they were a cult. Like they'd been led astray by a cult, but they were Sigmarites.
Yeah,
something like that. It was like something where you were like, well, if they genuinely thought they were doing right, then I don't know.
Because remember, like we know that it's complicated from that undead Sigmarite at Wittgenstein, where he was evil, and Leopold got the strong sense that he was evil and had to die, but in killing him, Leopold took sin points. You're right.
And he called on he had miracles, that Sigmarite as well.
Yeah, he did. He called on Sigmar.
Yeah.
Sigmar was conflicted, or Sigmarite miracles are
something else.
Divine in origin.
I don't know. Elric had a one-on-one with her when he walked her to the Amethyst, and I think, although he fundamentally disagrees with her practices in terms of seeing Gyron prop up a guy, even if he committed the most horrific crime in the world, that was just not right. But obviously, the party then go on and on about she has a writ and it's all fine, blah 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 blah. Morally, it's not okay. So I think Elric struggles to get on with that, but she's not actively done anything against the party. And I think for him, that's enough at the moment to like have a bit of faith in her.
I think we can trust her to do what she thinks is best
Yeah,
to
for sure.
achieve what she thinks is the right thing to do to save the Empire / stave off the end
Yeah.
time /
She-
stop Ruben's powers.
Yeah.
Whether that will align with our morals or our tactics, quite possibly not.
Yeah, and I think it was quite convenient for her when she was in a very weak position. She'd lost her writ, she'd lost her license, she'd lost all her family home and wealth. Her father had turned out to potentially be a cultist and she was on the run. She was in a really bad place. It was very convenient for her, for Gerhardt to propose to her and her to be considered like part of our little like found family. We got stuff out of that, but make no mistake, I don't think she has any particular emotional care or emotional tie to us that some of us might have thought that she might have or have felt for her. Not that I think we really did, but like, she's not like one of those characters like Greta, where you're like, Greta's a tame and she's an absolute like tame, but Greta seems to have formed her own, for her own reasons, some connection to Alemenowith. You might be able to rely on that to sway Greta's judgment in favor of the party. I don't think Margarita has a particular fondness for anyone, maybe.
No,
I think
but I
Gerhard
think
is some kind of pet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think above all, she's a pragmatist. Right?
Exactly.
I think pragmatically, she sees that we're useful. Like, we've saved her life on more than one occasion.
We also, I mean,
Leopold has personally spent at least 2 fate points saving her life.
And you know, by a roundabout way, we've taken out Dagmar, you know, which is a big issue for her. So she's definitely benefited a lot from the Jaegers.
Yeah. And she's also benefited because Dagmar's not necessarily dead and out of the picture, but we almost saved her family honor by telling the Todbringers that a Wittgenstein was instrumental in foiling a Wittgenstein plot. Basically, like, she supported that. The whole family isn't a traitorous, awful, etc. Okay, Wind Turning Leaf. Mechanically speaking, is there a direction you're looking to take your character, a career you're building towards, or some fun toy you're looking forward to getting?
I mean, not for Leopold particularly.
For my character, there is a choice coming up it's still quite far away because it's a very expensive proposition to build to go through an elf career, because you need to take all the career stuff, you need to take all the path stuff, and you're allowed to take the either ors, but you don't get to take like a limited amount. It's not like you can take 8 skills and you finish the career. You have to take everything in both. It's quite expensive. So when I get to the end of the 4th level of the path, if you've seen the path rules, I then choose whether to lock into that path and become essentially like a priest that guides other people on that path, but then you're like you're tied to that path forever. So then I'd be a spy, but I'd be in level 5 of the path career. Or you basically go back to the start of the path. I mean, some elves would choose to go into a different path. They'd go through all the spiritual requirements to do that, but Alemenowith's obviously not going to do that. Alemenowith would then go back to the start of the path on a different career. So essentially, she would re-embark upon her journey on the Path of Shadows. And so that will be a interesting choice. And I do have an idea of what I want her to do for her next career that I've talked about with Andy. And we'll see. It's not that far away. I mean, it's like maybe, I don't know, quite like I'm like, it's not that far away. I'm such an elf. It's like maybe a year away. It's not that far.
So does that mean a different career and a different persona for her? Like, is it tied to
possibly?
Her?
Yeah, possibly. It's complicated because there's things I don't want to say because there's spoilers about the personas anyway. And there's actually a question about Nuln later, and that'll come up there with the Joros Nuln thing.
I think Elric had obviously sojourned into his artificer, but I think he's going to go back now because he's got a chance to become a magister.
A magister.
So I think battle magic, that would be pretty insane if he got access to battle magic, because we've seen the damage that fireballs do, but a full-on battle spell would just wreck everything. So I think that'd be quite interesting to see.
Yeah, I think we'd laugh about elf bullshit, but Amenawith is such a neophyte elf, especially in terms of magic. I mean, she doesn't even have the sight. She can see Ulgu. Sometimes she sees other stuff because of elf bullshit, but she's such a baby. And so there's some things that I think would be really fun to do next with her that would really change what she could do and how useful she could be to a party. Because, she's not that useful.
I look forward to us exploding in even stronger fire spells. Thanks,
I've not blown you up yet.
I know, it's been amazing.
Yeah. There's literally been no friendly fire, I don't think.
Well, when we ran away from under Middenheim with those barrels, I think it wasn't friendly fire necessarily, but we kind of exploded. We all spent fate points except for you because you didn't take enough fire damage, I think.
Was that the volcano? No,
the Pilbury trap.
The Pilbury trap. I don't think. I think Amenawith was. I can't remember what happened.
Well, I certainly used fate point because I exploded.
But that wasn't.
I don't think
triggered that, was it?
I thought it was set off by Dan's fire, Elric's fire.
No, I thought it was set off by somebody stabbing it through the wall with Barakul.
No. What it was I failed.
Anyway.
I failed for Amenawith a detect trap or something, and her hand was just on it, and when she let it go, it triggered. But I think I spent a fate point to set the roll so that didn't happen. So Andy narrated it, but he didn't give me a chance to do that, and then it kind of unwound, and that explosion didn't happen. And then we got further through and we chose to explode it to protect ourselves, and then that's when some of the stuff impacted. Oh my gosh. It's Ed.
Hello, collective.
No, Ed, you're not needed. I've answered everything. It's been totally fine.
I'm sure I have. Yeah.
Canonically now, your long-term goal is to train poodles for the circus. So
is to do what?
Train poodles for the circus.
Like we discussed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can see how that can.
Remember?
That's doable.
Yeah, you didn't want to be a doctor. You were forced down that road. You always planned to go away and train the poodles.
Every time we finished a session, I'm just shouting at Andy, "Where the fuck are my poodles?"
Yeah. Exactly.
He's so jealous of Cat's dog that he just wanted ones for his own.
I've got 20 minutes that I thought I'd jump on and say hello before, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, of course it's okay. Is there a direction you're looking to take your character in, Ed? A career you're building towards?
Yes. It's very quick. It's very soon as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Andy did the switch out on physician in terms of the career, considerably nerfed me, which
sucks to be you, I guess.
Yeah. But I was just about to take a step into a different direction, which I don't think will surprise anyone. But I know, and considering he's done the rule set for it as a career, someone was going to get some stitches, for they would be witches, was the idea.
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
Let's all hope we can collectively pull together to dissuade him from this rash course of action.
Well, exactly. And based upon our current situation, I thought it'd be quite fun to basically throw some petrol on the fire of magic / faith-based fighting that was going on.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah. We'll see. So that's the idea.
There are a few more super chats, but I'm going to skip a couple. I'll come back to them, I promise, because Ed's only got a little bit of time. So, Ed, remember the mid-roll ads. Where are those photos? Can we expect more? How does Jerry feel about his marriage to Margarita now, and will it last?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot. Mid-roll ads.
I-
These are where I promise filthy pictures. Nothing I say on camera is real. As we know, thanks to Andy, the Lord of Change does exist within our world. So whatever was said in that video wasn't actually me, or it has changed since. All those pictures were there, and unfortunately they've now gone because they were not depicted in micro-classical in different
Exactly.
different colours. So that's those ones.
Surely the real answer is it was Castor Lieberung who promised those pictures. So,
yep, thank you, Andy. Again, as always, just smashing to like a legitimately better answer. Thank you.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Just absolutely.
I forgot how fragile your ego was. I'm sorry, man. I take it back.
It's fine.
Has it been a long weekend?
It's all right. It's good. It's good. Can we expect more? Maybe. Yes. No. Who knows? Castor Lieberung, I suppose, is dead, so it would be very different. I don't know if Jerry, or is that me?
Yeah, how does Gerhardt feel about his marriage to Margarita now?
That brings in a much larger question around where Gerhardt is in terms of his headspace of is he real, is he not real? Because if he is real, then maybe you should look at this thing. Is he not real? I also need to speak to Marguerite. Realistically, like it's not. There's two people in that, so you've got to kind of go like, "Hi, I'm not a real person," and you fucking know that, like more than most. Well, whether I do feel like a real person or not, whatever. Do you think I'm a real person? Do you want to marry a not real person? And also, like, if I'm not, the value of this marriage, because let's be fair, that's kind of the exchange, is somewhat lost. If I'm not seen as real. Like, yes, I've got the patent of nobility and all that sort of stuff, but we know how easily these things can disappear and be taken away, forged, or burnt.
But also, the reason you were going to get married was because you were being pressured by your family to get married, and that's not. If you decide that that's not you.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, and that also brings up a very long-term problem, which is there are technically two of us in the world, and that will not necessarily, at least, and much like a successful 80s movie plotline, I really think there can only be one. So
I tell you what though, right, Sage?
That's your long-term ambition.
Yeah.
Sorry,
You see how the Emperor basically admitted there are doubles and the Grand Theogenes was there and heard it?
Yeah.
That guy Volkmar can totally fucking suck it now.
I was thinking about that,
Fuck
actually.
that guy.
G-Thog
Mocking
had
us,
no
mocking
reaction
us.
to Gerhardt.
Yeah, because he's they did look different, but they look different. Like,
well, I guess
like
you know,
this,
different
like
hairstyle.
they look different. No, a scar, different hairstyles, a completely different body shape. Like no, like actual hair instead of a. What do they have? What are they called?
Yeah, maybe
Andy?
they look more
Tonsure?
like
More like
siblings now.
brothers. Like not so much that you'd be like, oh my god, that's the same guy.
I mean, it was enough that we from hundreds of yards away were like, that looks exactly like Gerhardt. Like,
and also he was announced as Gerhardt Jungfreud, so surely you would think, oh, I know a guy who looks like him, but I know his brothers because they're a well-known family, and it's not one of them. So I don't know. I think we know G-Thog cannot be trusted. He is
100%.
fishy.
Yeah.
and OP.
Yeah.
Fish
So
man? You heard it first.
There you go.
G-Thog is a fish man.
Are any of your PCs secretly frogs?
All of
Would
them.
be cool.
I'm glad I actually got into head off that Dan B. Cannon.
Yeah. I don't think that any of us are frogs. Like, we can never know what Andy will tell us from week to week about what's really been happening in the world. But at the moment, we're
I feel
fairly
like-
confident we're not amphibian.
I think Gerhardt could end up being a frog.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
We-
this
You
rate,
turn
yeah.
into. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we run out of fate points, we'll know when we croak.
Oh. How do you
Great.
kick? Where's the kick person from the call?
What is that weird noise?
I thought
you're
you
gonna
were
tackle
typing
as well.
What's that?
I'm
I
not
think it's
typing.
Ed.
Oh.
Is it me? Have I ruined it?
It's Ed, yeah.
Oh.
It's always
Someone's crackling. Hang on.
It's all the poodles running
Let me
around.
mute. Is it gone? Is the
Yeah.
crackling gone? It was you, Ed. Sort yourself out.
You're the one on the podcast. Sort your mic.
Well, yeah. To be fair, this is not my podcast setup. I've literally just chucked the phone on and gone go.
Yeah.
Like, this is through my iPhone and everything. So, if I'm impeding quality, I will leave, and I'm quite okay with that.
Oh, here's a question. Yeah.
Who will be your end?
I don't understand. I presume that, Hendrik, did you put this in at some point when we were talking about something? Yeah, cool. Catch you
Yes.
later, Ed. Bye.
Who will kill us? Will it be Ed or Andy?
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah, it'll be Ed. Bye,
Yeah.
Ed.
I mean, he's already tried his damnedest in Middenheim, right? So.
Yeah, oh, fucking hell.
He was just playing his character.
Oh,
As he'd been given.
Yeah, oh yeah, indeed. But that doesn't change the fact that Ed did actively
Yeah,
try
it's
to
true.
kill people. So
It's true.
No judgment, no shade, no criticism. Merely
Yeah.
stating facts.
Admiration for him as an actor, but
Yeah, Ed will kill us.
yeah. What are your thoughts on the halfling chef you hired?
Unsanitary kitchen practices.
Oh
I
my
will
God,
not
what?
eat.
Yeah,
But
not a fan.
like, is it more unsanitary than the rest of the empire?
I mean, she was eating humans, so like we
What
kind of
I
gloss over that.
I still think about I can't remember when Andy said, but the way the halflings see humans with
With the thingy lines, yeah.
yeah, I don't know what they're called.
Scrooge!
Oh, Scrooge!
Oh, love that fella.
He's my best boy. Oh, we love Scrooge.
What's going on, Scrooge? Huh?
When Dan first came to meet us when we were just doing this, he brought Scrooge with him, and unbeknownst to Dan, like we both hated Dan, me and Andy Law, but we were like, but we've got to have him because of Scrooge.
That's what I was gonna say. We put up with Dan because of
Yeah, we put up with Dan for Scrooge.
I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, Scrooge is
Those
great.
were the best sessions when, in addition to getting to roleplay, we also got to cuddle Scrooge. Like that was,
Oh,
it was like a double one.
Cats.
Scrooge.
But yeah, Dumpling, unsanitary. She's funny.
Her and
yeah.
Sigfeder were funny. Like I genuinely think Sigfeder had found love.
Yeah. in his iteration of Sigfeder, that was the perfect match. But yeah,
Exactly.
no, I really want to learn more about this halfling human vision. I'm
Oh,
almost
yeah, yeah.
considering making a halfling character just so that we can explore that more, because that sounds really cool.
Yeah, they can see the lines on people. Or yeah. So in LAWhammer, all the different species have subtly different ways of perceiving the world, just like in our world. You know, birds see, I don't know, a blackbird as being much more colourful than the human eye sees a blackbird. It's similar for the species in LAWhammer. And so halflings must see into some different part of the spectrum, and they can see what are they called, Sage, in real
I
life?
remember, no, and I have to look it up.
Now we've got
you
to look it
continue
up. Just
and I will look it up.
talk amongst yourselves. Well, no, Sage will do it for me. Yeah. Sage will do that while I bring up this one. What is your LAWhammer hot take? Oh, I had one recently, now I've forgotten it. I tell them to Andy Law, obviously, like when we're just sitting around, and he'll be like, oh, I'm saying nothing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm onto something. I'm narrator. She is never onto anything.
Hot take. The world should end. The world
Pardon?
should end because the majority of NPCs we've met are either shit or evil. The Warhammer world does not deserve to be saved. It should explode in a ball of flame.
Yeah. my hot take, and it's certainly a Lindsay hot take, not an Alamena hot take, because she doesn't know of the concept of Games Workshop and Age of Sigmar. But my hot take is that Sigmar is fully locked in, piloting the plane for this world to end to get to Age of Sigmar. Like that's, and actually my hot take on that is that's the Old One's plan. The Old One's plan is to take the fight to chaos in the aether, in the etheric realms of Age of Sigmar. Everything's going to their plan, and that's what Alamenoith is actually trying to stop. The Old One plan, not the Chaos Gods plan. That's my hot take.
That's a good hot take.
I was going to say
Do
my
you
hot
like
take
it?
was the Empire deserves to burn.
Oh, yeah,
so I
yeah.
think we are all on the same page.
Yeah.
But
No,
for the
but
right reasons.
Alamenoith, and my so my hot take is Alamenoith trying to stop the actual plan of the Old Ones. She just doesn't know it. She still thinks she's fighting chaos.
I found out they're called Blasco lines.
Oh,
It's
that's what I was
where-
going to say, because there's a famous chef. There's not a famous chef. He's a chef from Warhammer called... there's a famous chef called Blasco that Karl Franz used to have, and he would like fight with the Countess of Nuln over who would get Blasco, and the Countess of Nuln was really angry because Karl Franz would get Blasco and just use him to make like cream cheese wrapped in ham, and she'd be like, he's an artist, he's such a Philistine. Not that there's a Philistine in Warhammer. Anyway, yeah, Blasco lines. I should have remembered that.
Nice. And
That
they're
famous chef
apparently where
Blasco.
different types of cells meet across your bodies is where the lines are made.
There you go.
Would be cool to see what a mutant looks like.
Is that your hot take? It would be cool to see what a mutant looks like. Gerhard?
Could have married one.
Birdie?
I don't know if I have a hot take. I mean, those all sound good. I think that we should follow the plans of Thankol and explode more sleep. Things went bad after more sleep arrived. Things changed.
But exploding
I have
more
a
sleep
th-
would surely just bring more sleep closer
Yeah,
to us.
yeah.
You know, there's a place called Mordheim that was quite a bad tale.
Yeah, destroy it. If what's his face is trapped in it, great, he'll explode too. You know, just like get rid of it.
Start building a cannon again.
Yeah,
Um,
put Birdie
right.
in it.
Casper can't wait to watch Power Behind the Throne once our home game is past that part. I'm gonna go back. So I sort of agree with this Golden Chaos. He was just playing his character as the roleplay version of he was just following orders. It is when someone's like, well, that's what my character would do. But in this case, it was a side stream where we all get given like actual tasks to do. And Ed's task was to essentially blow up Middenheim. And I do genuinely feel that if he'd been like, well, my player's there, so I'm not going to bother, that wouldn't be in the spirit of the side streams.
But I also think, like, for me, a key part of role playing is conflict, like within a group. You know, it shouldn't always be conflict, but if there is something that your character firmly stands for or believes in, I don't think you should ever be afraid to dig in and go against the wishes and upset people if that's what it comes to. But you know, if you're just doing it for the sake of upsetting someone, then you're just being a dick.
Yeah, earlier on in the chat, it said we need to find the real hammer and an alliance between Middenheim and Nuln. Oh, in fact, there is a cheer. I did see a cheer that I didn't get to. I will go back to it. Yeah, the Nuln one, Andy. Have you got it? Bring it up.
I had it, and I've lost it. There it is.
I think it was what's everyone's opinion on Countess.
Sorry,
right?
Amadeus Arkham. I meant to come back to this. What does the Jaegers think of the Countess of Nuln, minus Leopold, who actually met her? It's complicated for Alamenoith because of her master's relationship with Nuln as a city. So, but I was tempted, given how much Alamenoith, given her feelings for her master, I was genuinely tempted to move Alamenoith round to the Countess to protect the Countess when that mutant came into the room. So that probably tells you what Alamenoith feels about the Countess of Nuln, and that she's
That
kind of
mutant.
predisposed to liking her, or at least protecting her.
She's also pretty, and we know how Alamano Life feels about
It's
pretty
true.
women.
It's true. Yeah, yeah. Fair.
Elber's got no opinion. He's
Yeah.
not really
Not met her.
run into her. He's just seen her in that room. That's his one and only experience with the Nuln faction. So
Mhm.
no strong feelings one way or the other.
Yep.
I think Loomer might have met her before, but not as anything more than just like at a diplomatic party sort of thing. So I don't think she has much of an opinion at all. I think she likes to look for role models in people who look like they know what they're doing. She's still trying to figure out how she wants to be a good leader, right? So she's a potential person to look up to, I guess.
Mhm. What I quite like about LAWhammer is that, like, something that authors don't like to do and shows don't like to do, and that is have multiple people called the same thing. Like, I quite like that we've got the Countess Emmanuel. We've also got Emmanuel Nacht, who obviously Ume does know and kind of respects quite a lot. But then we've got like Emmanuel Ferrin that is spelt slightly differently, and then you had Emmanuel, who was Leopold's
His map maker.
novitiate mapmaker, and I think I like that because it's just like feels more real and how the real things work, rather than everyone having like this unique, like, oh well, like I've got to come up with a new name, so that one's going to be Toronitha. Oh, okay. Could they not just also be Jakob?
Where
not
are
the
the
one.
multiple Andes?
Oh yeah, and Emmanuel Schlagen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's been another Emmanuel as well, but maybe that's a spoiler.
There's another Emmanuel. Jot it down.
Jot it down. Like, do you know how many people are called Matt, or in another version of Matthew, like loads? Yeah, Andy, is it your story or is it the other Andy's story about your like P5 class when there was like 8 of you in one class?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a very common name, particularly in Scotland, particularly in apparently people who were born in the late 1970s. So yeah.
Yeah, and the 27 different NPCs in Middenheim called Ulrich. Yeah, because they're Ulrichans. Like, surprised there aren't more Magnuses. Yeah, Magnus kind of gets a bit of a. People don't tend to go for Magnus as a name.
Is it because that name is revered now, as opposed to, you know,
yeah,
like
exactly.
in the Western world, we don't call anyone, well, in English-speaking words, we don't call anyone Jesus.
No, but in
Whereas
like
in
Spanish
Spanish,
speaking, they would, yeah. And it's kind of like Ulrich. Up north, they call people Ulrich. In the Reichland, there you get some people sometimes called Sigmar. I'm sure we met someone who had a little brother called Sigmar. Oh, yeah, that was off stream. We don't talk about him. It was one of the White Wolves that betrayed Alamena wife. It's in my bad books. He gets a letter a week to our Ulrich.
Probably one of the Cornet ones.
Yeah, and I guess there's probably a lot of Magnuses down in Nuln.
Yeah.
As well.
I've never met many, though. It's interesting. You've got 2 Andys, maybe more in the Bildhofen, more in Karaberg. We've never been to Karaberg really that much on the stream. 2 Andys, 2 Laws, 1,000,002 Leopolds. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I learned something. So I was doing some research about naming conventions in Japan for the bajillion names I need to come up with for Nippon, right? And apparently in Japan, historically, there weren't any surnames. And then the emperor gave his nobility class surnames. And he had like 8 noble families or whatever, right? But then because of intermarriage and things, it just happened to be that one surname became really popular. And at the end of the year, when he was like thanking people and awarding people for their good work, it was all the same names. You're like, for fuck's sake. So he makes more surnames, and then the same thing happens again because one family might be like the most well-connected or whatever, right? And so he like abolishes and like makes surnames more kind of spread out. But this family was called the Fujiwaras. They spread across Japan and then changed their surname to have the Fuji kanji as the second part of whatever area they're in. So for it's also read as like do or to. So for example, Sato is a very common Japanese surname, and that is Sa from the place that they were in, and To or Do from the Fuji part of their name. So yeah, like you can have names that are similar, or they used to be, and then they change over time as well, which I will be incorporating somehow.
Yeah, we've met lots of Borises. Magnus sounds very professor. I know a lot of Magnuses in real life, personally.
Yeah.
I don't know whether, like, the original people
Get
writing
the
Warhammer.
Friends and stuff as well.
Yeah, we have met a few friends. Toddler twins called Ramses and Moses, like in real life.
Okay, here's a question for you, Lindsay, as an etymology person,
Nerd.
and also student of Norwegian. Like, to me, Magnus sounds like more of a Scandinavian name than a German name, and that might not be true, but that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I think it is because Mangus, you sort of say it more like Magnus. It's not how we say it here, and the reason it's popular in Scotland is because of Orkney. So St. Magnus of Orkney was Norwegian. So some of the earliest saint who was a Mangus is Norwegian. So it's a very popular name in Scandinavia. I don't think it is but originally, presumably, it is Latin. So it must have come to Norway through, I would imagine, the saint. Yeah, like it must have come via Christianity because it's Latin. Magna, like, great, no?
Yeah.
Magnus?
What I'm just imagining, if it's nothing more complex than when writers and GMs are just thinking of a German sounding
yeah, that's what I mean. So
you'll avoid that because it doesn't feel German.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Like the early Warhammer writers,
characters called Sven and stuff like that as well, but not as often as we've encountered Borises and Frances and Hanses.
I think
it became popular based on Charlemagne, apparently. But it's
Carolus Magnus.
Charlemagne was one of the reasons.
Magnus with Mastermind was Magnus Magnusson, and he was Icelandic. Like, he was British, but he was originally Icelandic. So yeah. And someone, is that the chess player? Magnus
he's like the best chess player in the world, I think.
Yeah, if there's any Norwegians, like, tell me about the pronunciation, because I've heard it from different people who've helped me with my Norwegian that it's more like Mangus than it is Magnus.
Mongoose, the things that kill snakes.
No, like Mangus. Yeah, exactly. So it's not quite like that. I'm like saying it wrong. Yeah, I agree. The Scandinavian roots trace back to Latin, but I think the upsurge in popularity in Orkney and in the north of Scotland was due to the Scandinavian influence in that locale. Will the characters ever meet the Fimir? We do not know, and I would imagine that some people, PCs, don't know what or who the Fimir might even be, so that'll be a big surprise.
Maybe we just didn't know. Done.
Well, yeah.
I mean, meeting the gnomes was pretty out there.
The gnomes
killed by them. Fucking arseholes.
If you could swap characters with someone else, who would it be and why?
Birdie.
Yeah, you said that before. We've actually had this question on a previous one, so it'll be interesting to hear if people's minds have changed.
So I think where I'm coming from Elric's point of view is Elric is someone who he's got a code and he has to abide it. Like, that's just who he is. It's built in. Whereas Birdie is so morally flexible and she just acts depending on the situation, whereas Elric will always act based on his past experiences and what he believes to be right. Birdie doesn't have those scruples. So I think it'd be interesting to play a character that different to Elric.
I think I said Elric last time.
Yeah, I think you did.
Boom, explodey. I think the magic site would be cool to see as well, and like see different things. I don't know.
Like the G is silent in Magnus, like, whereas I was hearing it that the G was after the N, and that just really confused me. So it's just got a softer Manus. Yeah,
so, interestingly, there's an Irish name, Manus, which is
Yeah, well,
probably again based
yeah,
off.
Menace, and do you know that's also a Southern French name, Menace, which has got the same root from and obviously the Irish and the Isles had that whole Norwegian Viking period. So I wonder if it does come from the same reason.
Yeah, I've got a friend named Manus, and I just never really thought of the two together.
Never connected it. Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
There's a cheer that's just come in, I think.
Manus. Got it. So I just clearly misheard when my pal Christiana was telling me. Right, here we go. Cheer, what is the one skill that always seems to come up that you wish you'd put more in?
Stealth.
Oh, yeah, for you.
For me. I mean, like, but to be fair, it's the perennial problem, I think, with skills being tied to careers fundamentally, is if it's not in your career, you can't. So I don't think there's anything I could have put points in that I have not put points in. The problem is I have not been able to put points in. Like, I have that 1 point of stealth ether, and I'm always asking if I can use it. But I'm not going to get to use it unless I spend hundreds of XP on it, and I'm not very good at it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Strength for me, for sure, because I've had the same problem. I've not had a career with strength in it. And, like, story-wise, I've sunk loads of XP in it outside of career to get some points in it, because she was ridiculously weak. But even now, she's terrible. So, but at least she's stronger than Gerhard, so that's fine.
Hilarious.
Mine is the same. It's like skill-wise, I think El's quite
Intelligence.
rounded. But yeah, in terms of characteristics, he's never had access to intelligence. So luckily he rolled for a random trait, savvy. So he got a bump to it at the start.
That was lucky.
But I literally have pumped it must be thousands at this point of XP into language magic, because there's no other way to improve it. So I'm sitting at 80 something for language magic, which means I put like 40 advances into the career or into the skill.
What when Savvy got updated and now you get to take a lower skill as like a basic skill, what did Elric take?
I don't think Dan knows that.
Yeah, I feel no. I took a lore skill recently because I got my little trip through the ether, my road trip. I got lore chaos, but I don't think he's taken another extra lore.
So but what it means is you can pick a lore that you've got, but it counts as a basic skill, which means you can get as many successes as you roll. So Leopold's in that with lore theology.
Or magic?
So I can get
you get that
lore
already?
magic, I suppose. But yeah, it's the language magic that's holding back. As my channel is over 100, it's my actual casting the spell is. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just
still
flagging that up because I overlooked it for ages, and that might be useful. Like, there's lore theology rolls where I've got like 2 successes, where had I realized, I'd be like, 8 successes, and might have learned something really important.
I think there isn't really any for me, because I've spread mine are so. If you look at Alamenowite's character sheet, the humans are like really specialized. Like, they've got all these peaks and troughs, and an elf at Alamenowite's age is kind of just, especially on the path that she's been on, which has given her a few different careers because Joros made sure she did a few different things. Like, she's really rounded, but not amazing at anything. I think when you look at her, probably there's a couple of things that she's got the highest of the party in, because every now and then we go and we like do our like who's the best at fighting and who's the best at stealth and who's the best at acting. I think there's a couple that she's like was way ahead on at the start, and now she's sort of even with everyone, even with one other person, because the humans are much more specialized. Yeah, like elves are so old, but she's only 51 in terms of her experience on this earth. She only has the experience of that, and actually she doesn't have the experience points of that, because there's a kind of thing where you actually, for the path rules, like when you move a path and she like came onto her path, you lose all the talents. So essentially Alamenowite as the Adorabelle probably had way more charm, fellowship, well, talents than she did to boost all those things than she does now. She probably had etiquette nobles like 8, attractive 8, and she just like that just went when she spiritually it changed her. Oh yeah, they have more time to shop around with skills, but they're also their starting stats are really quite
So much
high
higher.
across the
Yeah.
board. So you've kind of you end up like I'm now on pretty much over 60, I would say, on every single skill, at least, if not more. So she's got like just basic a 2/3 chance.
I think
What is
someone
that
asked
noise?
how much.
Can anyone else hear that? No.
Yeah, it sounded like
tapping.
thumping or
Oh, that was probably me. Was it this?
Yeah, that's you. Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
fidgeting? Yeah.
I'm just kicking my little feet.
Yeah, so just to answer Swen's when they don't have more time to shop around with skills in a way because of the path system constrains them so much. Because if they go off that system, if they branch out and do things, then their souls are at risk. So there are like downsides to being an elf. I know
Someone
that's
asked
hard to
how-
believe.
Elf bullshit. Someone asked earlier how much XP we're sitting
Oh,
on.
did
so
they?
could
Yeah.
get a better idea. I think. What are we
About
on, like?
13 and
I
a
think
half
I'm on
K,
13 and a
or-
half. Yeah.
Yeah, about
Hold on,
13 and a
hold
half
on.
K. Most of mine's in talents. It feels like most of it's in attractive. Like how
Oh, no,
much do we
Elmer's-
work out? There's like thousands in that.
I've got 14 and a half K.
Do you? Nice.
I cheat.
Cheat.
You do
I
not
had a-
cheat.
Yeah, I add a couple of zeros every week to what Andy says.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Sven. Of course, like elves they go on for such a long time that of course they do have time to shop around and get really good at things and just have this basic kind of jack of all trades. I wonder what that elf name would be, jack of all trades. Yeah, sorry, I digressed. Risky deep cut. I just finished Thorpe Shadow King. Alith feels like Dracaran with Vengeance Rooms. The book feels like modern Azure propaganda rather than contemporary history. Thoughts? I think it's always safest to say anything written is propaganda. It's always from the view of someone always from the view of someone in the world. So at any moment, Games Workshop, the studio can say no. That we reserve the right to change our minds. That was just a view. It's just a view. Unreliable narrator.
would be a better term.
Yeah.
It's Mary Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Propaganda.
Propaganda. Yeah, unreliable narrator. Absolutely. Unrelated, but for Dan, what's the tattoo on the left arm? I just noticed and it looks super cool.
Which is this one. Like it's just a mishmash. There's a Hanya, there's a dragon, there's a samurai with a skull in it. Just a cultural appropriation in both my arms. Sage loves them.
Other left.
Every week.
Other left.
This flower. What kind of flower? Orchid, I think. And then a phoenix.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So you've got a dragon on one side and a phoenix on the other. So you're basically an elf. Got it.
I'm basically Japanese. That's why I bow so well.
Sure. Yeah.
If you could play a wizard sorcerer channeling one of the 20 winds of magic, 19 from Ume's dad, and necromancy, which one would you play?
I did have a hankering before I had my idea for my next character. I did have a hankering to play a necromancer. I did think that would be quite good fun.
So just a Sigma, right?
Just Sigmar.
Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, fair.
I mean, you did like playing
It's a Doom
what's
Lord.
his name? Yeah, the Doom Lord.
I did. Had a lot of
I know,
fun.
it depends like what you want. Like if you want to go full power fantasy, you just want to be a light wizard, right? Like
Yeah, but when you know about the light college, like and how hard it is, and you have to like learn to sing, and it's all maths, like it would be hard. And my two daughters would be absolutely amazing in the light college. It's like Josie's got perfect pitch.
being perfect
Laurie
pitch would be, yeah.
Laurie claims she doesn't have perfect pitch, but that's just because Josie's so off the charts perfect pitch, like she does. And they kind of get it from Andy. Like Andy will be like, I'm not musical at all. His ear is so amazing, like you wouldn't believe it. He only doesn't have perfect pitch because he doesn't read music, so he doesn't know what the names are of the notes that he can tell. Like, it's amazing. So yeah, we'd be like we'd be the Von Trapp family of light wizards. I'd be the one that couldn't sing as well, but like I'd be able to do, I don't know, all the research,
You make up for it
I
with
guess.
enthusiasm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The math part.
I'm not even that good at maths, Sage.
What was
like,
the wind that you made
statistics, I
bad?
guess.
He gave her a sample of it. It was like hope. It was like something.
That's Azir. Azir is hope.
No, it wasn't
No,
Azir.
it
It was
was
something
like
else to give you the
like
feeling,
a
everything's going to be
greenish
fine.
wind, like a
yeah,
lime
it was like
green or
lime
something.
green or something.
Oh, like chartreuse.
Yes.
But like that, like just from like a holistic point of view and how horrible everything is around, being able to go around and be like, no, you feel better. You feel
You're
better.
all right.
Would be really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Like how different would the Empire be if humans could perceive and channel that wind?
Yeah,
instead of
imagine
Obi
if it
just fucking
wasn't
everyone up.
those 8. Imagine if it was a different set of 8.
Yeah.
What, like that would be cool.
That's a good what if, isn't it? Like what if?
Yeah.
Yes, drugs, the wind.
Yeah, MDMA, the wind. Yeah.
It was really, the description was exactly that. I think the pink wind is really fucked up. Like the fact
No.
that you
One
could,
that's pretty much chaos.
No, it's not. Take that back, everyone.
the one that you
I
could
thought
change
that's what you
people's
no
always
minds.
reason.
Yeah.
It's really fucked up. Like
I mean, okay.
Yeah,
The wind of telepathy. We won't go into why I think it's fine.
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
from me, personal preference in TTRPGs.
No, I get
I
you.
don't like spells
yeah.
that like force someone to do a thing, like in D&D and stuff. You know, the ones that.
No, I totally get you. Sorry, I didn't realize that that's what you were getting at. I was thinking of it as one of the elven paths, which is not about mind control. It's about helping people through things, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the pink wind in the pond is all about cats and hot springs and stuff.
Yeah, like
I made
remember
it
we met.
things I like, but
Yeah.
it's how you use it.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
so-
it was a college, like it would, like I think objectively, greys are the most fun to play. Because you get to do some killy things, you get to do some sneaky things, you get to do some movie things, you get to, it's the one that's got the most versatile toolbox for like doing different things.
You've also got to think of, if you were only channeling one wind, you're going to get marks of that wind. Personally, I wouldn't want to channel gold because I don't want to get like heavier and I don't want the wind marks of the gold wind. There are other winds I would prefer to get the marks of. I wouldn't be a big fan of being an actually channeler who only channeled that wind and might end up not being able to touch people or hurt people by accident. Like grey would be okay. I would really like Azir. I'm quite drawn to Azir. But again,
Amber
it's like
as well. Like
I wouldn't
get
want
more
to be
animalistic,
Amber.
but
No.
I think that's quite cool though. Like if you're
Yeah, no,
like
I wouldn't want to
shaman
do
and
that.
you've got like eagle's eyes and stuff, like that's quite acceptable mutation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like the Light College has a real draw because of music, which I really love, but also because because it's got that demonic thing, but it's also more about the mental health, like the psychology, being able to cure people and help ease people's minds. Like that's got a big appeal to me. I would like to go down the Light College route of like if you've got elemental and cardinal and what's the third one? The third school of the winds. I would like to go down that one.
I mean, some of them were just librarians, aren't they? Which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like librarians.
Really cool. Yeah, like librarians who just like take the word, like chronicle what happened and check for changes. That would be fun.
That's Elric's aunt.
Yeah, I would love that.
She's the one who we learned as players is basically saying the Lord of Change is literally changing things that we
Yes.
thought were unchangeable.
Thank you, Golden Chaos. Mystical is exactly the word I was looking for. I was thinking spiritual, and I'm like, I know that's not right. Shyish. I wouldn't want to do Shyish because I'm really vain, and I wouldn't want to have to shave all my hair. Although maybe if I was channeling Shyish, I'd get really thin, so I'd look great with no hair. I'd be like Sinead O'Connor in 1993.
Way to role model that, Lindsay.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah.
Moving on, next question.
Yeah, moving
I'll
on.
just sit here
Next
for
question.
a second. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. That says more about me and the Western standards of beauty for women than anyone else.
Magritte hasn't lost her hair, right?
Oh yeah, true.
No.
Yeah, that tells us a lot
She's
about
the
Magritte.
heir to Nagash.
Yeah. If most all winds of magic have an adverse effect on the wielder, what does necromancy do to the wielder? Bad stuff. Stay away from necromancy, kids.
I mean, it also lose weight, I guess, with necromancers. So another future path potentially.
Thanks, Dan.
But I imagine, like, probably necrosis, right? Like, imagine bits of your
Well,
body start to die.
There can be all manner of like dark
yeah.
ones. Like in our old
It also
game, there's a
depends.
guy who started like being able to do necromancy, and he got the compulsion to eat human teeth.
Yeah, like
So
it's gross. It depends what you're powering your necromancy with. Like if you were using Dar, then you would physically and mentally start to corrupt, and you would roll. It would be like the winds of magic. Because if you think about it, there are things that change you mentally. Like with Actuary, you get more snappy. There are things that change you physically, like your eyes go redder, your hair goes redder. So if it was being powered by Dar, or if it was being powered by Shyish, it would be very different functions. But with Dar, it would just be horrible. You would be corrupted physically and mentally. That's why you shouldn't do necromancy, kids.
Golden Chaos has asked Andy to play a dwarf so that we can get dwarf rules. If I change my character, I will definitely be playing a dwarf. So rest easy on that.
And I almost certainly won't, for two reasons. Partly because I've already got an idea that I'm in love with for my next character, and partly because I have an interesting take on dwarfs that will not fit with the published and LAWhammer established dwarf, so it would have to come from a very remote hold, and that's the only thing I'm interested in. So the chances of me playing a dwarf on LAWhammer are very slim.
We did cover this. We're not sure the status of Gerhardt's and Magritte's marriage because Gerhardt is currently going through an existential crisis, and Magritte may not want to marry him. Now she knows he's not necessarily going to inherit the big D's duchy. Gonna call him that forever.
I mean, she should have known anyway that he never would inherit because of his awakening.
No, because if he's a Schwertfish, he can. That's why he went down the swordfish route.
Yeah.
But he never will be.
No, and the real Gerhardt, if that is the real one in Null, he can't inherit, right? Because he's a Shellian now. Do you get taken out the line of succession? No, you can. It's not like Witchery. In Witchery, you're removed from the line of succession. And if you go into the cult, you choose to leave, but you could go back into the line of succession, I think. I would need to check that.
I think that's right. You'd probably need to formally leave the Shallian order to become a noble again. But yeah.
Exactement.
If you're blessed, that's like just asking for trouble.
Well, but I think the Hellstein lady should do it. I think Alamenoite's current push is for the Hellstein lady to leave the Cult of Moor or take a different role in the Cult of Moor and a sabbatical, inherit Hellstein and marry Boris to bring the families together.
Wow, that's one hell of a step.
Coincidentally, nudge Bertie slightly down the line of succession at the same time.
What? No, I never thought of that. People are like, but Alamenoite, there's a massive age difference. What if she doesn't want to? She's like, but it just makes sense to do it.
I mean, she could marry Katerina.
She could, but then they wouldn't have children. So
there's Jade Wizards.
Yeah, but nobles don't like to do that because a baby conceived with magic is much more likely to be a witch. They say.
They say.
They say.
You can have like babies through. That's cool.
We don't know about the lore of Hashut, so we're not going to talk about it.
No, it's a joke.
Yeah, I know. I know. I just got it. Another slightly unrelated question for Central Park. I got Central Park in the same episode Phoebe did, so it's not even one word of a lie. Yeah, I do that sometimes. I miss really obvious jokes. Another slightly unrelated question for Sage this time: how many legs does your fox have? The giant 6-eyed version specifically.
I think it just has like
4. We don't know.
Numbers of legs. It has more tails and more eyes, but I think it has 4. Yeah. It's not like the cat bus or anything. Like.
Have you played any Warhammer video games and any opinions of them?
I bought Vermintide after we went to Uberstrike, just so I could be like, oh my god, did we feed it? Or like, I spent loads of time just collecting the paintings and like reading the descriptions and being like,
Oh,
look
nice.
at the lore, and the hats. Yeah,
I haven't played Vermintide, but I want to. I was saying the other day to Andy, I might stream my woeful attempts to play Total War. Like, I think that might be quite fun. Like, you can all teach me how to play. I played. I used to play. What's the ones with Karl Franz tapping his fingers? Andy.
Oh my
The
god,
Horned Rat.
ones with Bernhardt in them.
Yeah, the ones with Bernhardt in
Shadow of
them.
the Horned Rat. Yeah.
Dark Omen Shadow of the Horned Rat. Played them, used to love them. Played Warhammer Online, that was a great game. Yeah.
I played Rogue Trader, but different Warhammer
Yeah,
universe.
yeah. I haven't played Rogue Trader. I watched Andy play quite a lot of Rogue Trader, but I always meant to start it, but then I got distracted by something else.
I didn't particularly. It was interesting. It didn't grip me, and I think it's an interesting like contradiction for someone who loves reading so much. I didn't like how much reading was on screen because when I'm reading a book, I want to read a book. When I'm playing a game, I want to play a game. I don't want to have to read lots of dialogue when I'm playing a game. And I just thought I just couldn't get it. So I happily paid for it and supported it because I'm glad that a game like that exists. But then I was like, I played like an hour. I'm like, nope, this is not for me. I'm not enjoying this experience.
Ow.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think like sometimes, but I can tell if I'm not enjoying the experience, the Ludo part of the Ludo narrative experience, then I'm just like, I'm never going to enjoy that. So I'm going to stop now.
We've got a cheer, Mornington Crescent. Hello, Mornington Crescent. If you know it, for the 40k RPG, would you do Rogue Trader as a stream game, do you think? If not, which 40k game would you do? Well, I've got views about 40k.
I like the miniature game. I like about how you can play it, but I like, the figures and stuff. But actually role playing in the 40k universe, I've read a couple of the different systems, and the best of them was probably, to me, the Death Guard one. Just because it's ultimate power fantasy, everyone gets to be the best space marine possible. But yeah, really the universe itself, I'll read the novels, I'll read stuff like that from it, but I don't really have any interest of playing.
I weirdly had a shower thought on this earlier, Nick. If you wanted to do a 40k RPG, you do a Hive City RPG. So you turn it into like an urban RPG. It's all set inside a giant Hive City. You've got social strata. You've got areas where people are like kind of lawless and it's gangs. You've got kind of nobles at the top controlling everything. Like that's where your interesting RPG goes, because you've got power struggles that can be resolved socially as well as physically. But as soon as you go in, or you do an all Eldar game and you're on a craft world or something like that, which could be interesting. But yeah, I think the problem is the iconic stuff in 40k is a very bad fit for a role-playing game.
Yeah.
Whereas as we've seen with LAWhammer, the iconic stuff in a Warhammer Fantasy game actually works well in a RPG context. So like a Necromunda RPG.
Or just
streaming the actual video game Rogue Trader, there's too much writing. Like those kind of games where you have to read a lot, unless maybe you're like Andy Law and really good at voices and like switching between different ones. Like it's really boring after a while for the people watching, for you to watch you just read a bunch of stuff out loud, and it's also really tiring. Would not recommend.
Yeah, like
that would be quite interesting.
If it's boring as a player, that'd be even worse.
But imagine how fun it would be if you had someone like Andy Law who would do the voices and would like actually like sound like how that would be pretty cool.
That's a commentary on the studio. Like, is it LCAT that make 40k? I mean, they're a small studio. They don't have that much of a budget. It's not like Larry.
I'm not like, I quite like a game when I get to read stuff and there aren't voice actors. So for me, I would quite like. I quite like Rogue Trader, and I liked it when Andy was playing it. So no shade on LCAT.
Have you not seen the announcement for LCAT's new game though?
Yeah, but I've forgotten it.
Expanse, I think.
The Expanse.
and it's Mass Effect style, so it's fully voiced. It's
Cool.
Yeah, it's more my kind of game than what.
I've never read any of
even
The
then-
Expanse. I've read his stuff as a fantasy author. Daniel Abraham, I think he goes by on that, but
Well,
never read
it's
The
two. The
Expanse.
Expanse is two of them. It's Daniel.
James
and another
Corey
guy.
is the other, is his sci-fi name, I think.
Yeah,
he's
but
got a
it's
writing.
two of them. It's not one person, James Corey. It's Ty Frank
okay.
and Daniel.
But I mean, in terms of streaming, fully voiced ones are terrible as well because like they're quite slow. And I don't know about you, but I read like much faster. And so I get
I read really fast. I'm better than everyone.
everyone reads
So
faster
sage.
than the spoken word. Like that's
I
just how
don't.
brains work.
Takes me about
I
an
do.
hour.
I like inhale words, so I don't like people reading stuff out to me. I was going to say something about this. Oh yeah, Andy did a 40k RPG for me, which was unbeknownst to me because I hadn't played it. The Mass Effect, the first game, but like ported in. So who's the essentially there was an Inquisitor and I was Inquisitor following around an Inquisitor. So I basically played Mass Effect in 40k RPG as like a rogue Inquisitor who got into a lot of trouble, and that was really good fun. I really enjoyed that. And I think that was the only... No.
Greyfax?
No. I don't remember. The Inquisitor.
Yeah, Eisenhorn is like the Inquisitor that I always think of.
No. I mean, the named character in Mass Effect, he took that, and they weren't an Inquisitor.
Sorry.
They were like a
40K.
Black Templar. No. But I basically played, I was like, this is an amazing plot. Like, it's really clever. And he's like, yeah. Afterwards, he told me, he was like, you just played the Mass Effect game, but in 40K with like things subbed in. It was amazing. It was so good. Like I had a modded Thunderhawk gunship that was basically the Normandy. It was just like the best game ever.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
On 40k computer games, like it's not an RPG at all, but I had like a very weird disconnect with Space Marine 2 in that I think it's terrible, but it reviewed really well and everybody who plays it seems to love it. So I feel like I'm missing something, but the gameplay loop is incredibly repetitive. There's hardly any story. There's hardly any mission variety. I don't understand why people aren't outraged at how much money that game cost for how little you got, but people are not. So I don't know. If I've missed something, let me know.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it because let's not make this a like dump on 40k because we do that enough on Inside the Rookery. If you're not human, you're filth or dead, and if you put one step wrong, the only solution is the mercy of the Emperor. Yeah, so if the Imperium of Man was anything other than the Imperium Man, and their ideology was this like suffer not the Xenos to live, Xenos filth, die. Like people wouldn't even have a discussion online as to whether they were good guys or not, because they're literally just genocidal, religious, fascist maniacs. But because they're human, people are like, yeah, we can play in that role-playing game and play those guys and be the heroes. So yeah, it's not really. It's a problem with that RPG. And I think it's much more clear cut in the Warhammer fantasy world that there are invaders from the north, that chaos sweeps down, that there are demons that invade the world. And yeah, you're in a monarchy, but people are really trying to be good people. And for me, some people are trying to be good people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey ho.
I mean, I think that one of the, for me, like a beauty of 40k universe is that it's so strongly, there's no good people, and it's
in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And the big news is that war doesn't make you a good person. It actively requires you to be not a good person as we would understand good. So yeah. When your tagline is in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, you're kind of fucked. That's my Warhammer hot take. Yeah, whereas fantasy is like, it's grim and perilous, but grim and perilous is different from there is only war. Everyone knows Nagash is the goodest person. He's just a guy who wants to stop chaos by making everyone undead. Yeah. He's just a wee guy.
It's the ultimate expression of do the ends justify the means, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of where you have to land?
Age of Sigmar.
Real question, what are your thoughts on Age of Sigmar? I can't say them.
I know fuck all
There are
about
some
it.
nice miniatures in that line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There are, yeah.
also taken some miniatures from that line. I purposely I stay away from a lot of lore just in case. It not so much these days because I know more about Warhammer and this campaign has gone ahead. But like towards the start, I just avoided it in case I metagame. So
I think Age of Sigmar for me, again, it was a battle game first. Age of Sigmar, like 40k, was designed and primarily intended to sell miniatures to fight a battle game. Totally
Yeah.
reasonable. That's a great thing to do. We love miniatures. I love painting minis. I love playing with them. But what that means is that then, like, your world that was constructed to support that, once you're like, well, actually, now I want to role play in it, takes a lot of work to be like, well, how does this world work? Like, where are there children? Are there families? And for me, children and families and growing old and like still continuing to adventure with your human friends who are aging when you're an elf and you're not, and seeing them be like, I'm actually going to settle down, and coming to terms with that, and all of those things that make us human are what for me is interesting about role playing. And it's quite a Age of Sigmar for a role-playing game requires for me quite a lot of like contortions to make it feel like a world that organically lives and breathes and has hopes and dreams that aren't literally just Sigmar's hopes and dreams, the Age of Sigmar, or whoever is the big, other big godlike figures. So
yeah, it's really popular. It makes that company a ton of money, and they're going to keep pushing figures. But
agree, like great minis.
I bought one of the starter sets. What's the most recent one? It had Skaven in it, I think. And then I started reading the rulebook just to see the lore, and like 10 pages in, I was kind of like, not my game. It's not for me. But the sculpts are incredible. Yeah, it's about all I really have on it. The Stormcast are fucking a hideous abomination.
But like some of the sculpts are incredible. That's the thing that annoys me. Some of them are really, really good. And but with a lot of the factions, I think all of the undead factions are brilliant. For instance, like I don't think they put a foot wrong with the undead. But with some of the other ones, you look at it like that's almost brilliant. But that guy and that guy and that guy look really stupid to me. And that might just be a question of taste. But I
an
find
amazing
it really hard.
Herald of Nurgle, I think it was, a guy on a horse with a lamp. Like that was unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Chris says, really hope at some point the cast will go to Marienburg and have some adventures there. Love how cosmopolitan Andy makes his cities and how varied they feel. Marienburg is one of the best of its kind. Yeah, I'd like to go to Marienburg. We went off stream, didn't we? And we had a few of us, and we had a bit of fun in Marienburg, meeting some Azur. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I think it's always been the idea of we just flee to Marienburg and everything goes tits up.
Yeah.
That is safe haven.
Oh yeah, 100%. NH. Is that like sodium? Like you need to tell me like why your name is like that. I always took the 40k imperial philosophy.
Gallic, maybe.
Oh yeah, not the it's like sodium, hydrogen, alba.
It might be like I am Alba or I'm from Alba.
Yeah, that makes more sense than what I thought it was.
I don't think so. I mean, I speak Irish, and it'd be Tame Os Alba would be I am Scottish, or Albon we'd say, but I don't. I mean, the person whose username can give us the full info.
Something in Gaelic, but not nah.
Anyway, I always
tell us in the chat the origin of your name.
Yeah. For 40k imperial philosophy, the same way as Starship Troopers parody of that. Absolutely, it's intended to be a parody, and sometimes people just forget that. And
that's the key thing.
I love a Space Marine.
It's people don't understand that it is parody, and I think even maybe some writers who are writing in that world have lost sight of that vision as well. And that it just all becomes way too serious when it should just be Starship Troopers. Yeah,
absolutely. Right, what else have we got? Sorry, on you go, Sage. Do you want me to bring one up?
Yeah, there was one person who was like, how do you use stealth aether? Like quite a
that was quite a while ago. Sorry about that. Sage is super literate. Just while I try and find it.
I mean, I'm probably hyperlexic, but like that's just knowing lots of words.
Here's another one we'll come to.
I know lots of words. I know pretty much all the words.
All the
I made
words.
up a word the other day. Equalizing. Made that up. Trump claims that it was him, but it was me.
Well, clearly, if you know all the words, like.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a super chat comment. How was it to have a guest at your table? It was amazing. We loved having Sotek.
I was so sick.
Oh yeah, you
so
were. Oh,
day.
you were. What a shame.
So
yeah,
it was great, but I went home and I started vomiting everywhere, and I was just like, oh. But Sotek, lovely for as much as I could talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah,
for the, and again, Sotek was in the chat, so I'm sure he is there, and I feel a little bit bad for it. But for the moment where I got to out-lore the lore master of Sotek, I did quite that moment was very personally pleasing for me.
He's never gonna forget it.
No,
he's never gonna shut up about it.
And it's not fair because it's lore I wrote, right? It's not.
Yeah,
fair,
exactly. Exactly.
It was
great, and we we had a great when we were talking about like how we'd all got ill, Andy Leask said to me, well, I think I probably was more likely to get ill than Sotek because I was sitting closer to him at the table. And I said, and Andy Law was sitting opposite him. And I was like, yeah, but Sotek and Andy Leask cut in and was like, yeah, but when Sotek and Andy were streaming, they were sitting next to each other. And I was like, but he was also living in our house for 5 days. Like they only existed in Andy Leask's mind if they were in a part of the house that the cats weren't. That's what it was. We all know our house doesn't exist for the cat bit.
What you guys get up to in the cat bit is up to you. I don't know what kind of super spreading nonsense you've got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's lots of compromising pictures of Andy Leask everywhere. That's actually what's going on.
Yeah.
The whole hallway is lined with pictures.
Yes, blackmail. I wish maybe the one thing would be if we'd had a slightly bigger room because we were a little bit
we wish
up on
it was snug. Lore Master. I too was also very sick. You were very sick. We really felt
and
for
like you know, Dan and Ed already take up so much space on that side. So.
I don't physically. I just have a big ego. That's all. Like physically, I'm quite weak.
Ed has
you're just biggest man spreading.
I don't man spread. I set a very clear boundary as to where my space is, Sage, and you blatantly disregard it, and then you put your filthy words into chat. It's disgraceful. Bad behavior.
And I'm going to find the stealth one. Does anyone in the Empire worship the desert gods? And if not, can one of you make a character who makes a cult of the desert gods in the Empire of the modern day? I don't know, actually. You'll have to save that for a Lorebeards episode. Or Sotek's in the chat. He can give us a bit of desert god chat. How do you use stealth aether? I'll find it, but yeah, here we go. How do you use stealth aether? You use it kind of when you want to hide yourself, like the bit of yourself that's in the aether. That's all I can really say. I mean, I presume if you actually physically were able to go into the aether, and you had some way to keep yourself, intact, then you could use stealth. Yeah, like Elric has been able to do, then he probably literally could use stealth aether in the aether, but we're using it like, how would you say it? It's almost like a mental.
Reflection.
Yeah, it's to hide your etheric reflection in the aether, and someone has to teach you that and teach you how you would do it as a. I would imagine most people who get access to that.
Yeah, or you have to get lucky. And you use it when two people who know how to use it are using it around you, and it works. So yeah.
Yeah, but I was also going to say, like, I would imagine to get access to it, it is basically like hiding your soul in the aether.
Yeah,
making it smaller.
Like, in terms of being tracked, I think we lost the fox a couple times because of my stealth aether.
Yeah.
And I think Ume has silent step aether as well, so it means that if they're not actively looking, she can't be perceived, right? So that helps. And I think Gideon had trouble finding us as well because of the stealth Aether. And
Yeah, so
I mean,
it's
don't
not
know why.
just hiding the bits of yourself that are in the aether, it's also hiding the whole of yourself from etheric entities to a certain extent. I mean, Casper, I'm going to be honest, we don't necessarily know the metaphysical rules that that exist, but we kind of know when to ask Andy if we can use it.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, if there's
again,
spirits or
that's
demons
another
around.
Lorebeards question, I would say, yeah. If there's spirits around, if there's demons around, if we're a bit worried about etheric interference. I guess, Dan, you should think about whether if Elric got it, could he use it to hide some of his channeling, for example? I know that's like more physical, but could you do something there? That would be interesting.
I think first he needs to figure out how he can get back into it without spending a fate point, because that's pretty much how he's gotten
The
into it
only
in the
way
last-
he has so far, yeah.
We'll
But
go to
as Andy has given him that info to say that he thinks he can do it again, so we'll see what that means.
just go
Yeah,
for another
exactly, Casper. So there was always spirits or demons around. So Alemenawith has silent step aether. So essentially, they'll only really spot her if they're already actively looking. So she's almost kind of always stealth aethering around the place for exactly that eventuality. Because around a elf, there's always the risk of Slaneshi demons in past and trying to snack on you.
Well, that was another thing that I didn't like about Age of Sigmar is how they have to censor Slanesh because they want to make money and they don't want to have
How dare
models
they?
with 3 tits
Yeah.
on the battletop.
How absolute dare they want to make money?
Actually, that's what put me off. I think I read it. It's like, Slanesh
Oh, really?
Slanesh is captured and it's just not in this world at the moment. And you're like, oh, okay. And I was like, okay, I can totally get why they've done it. You know, it's easier to have a lower rated product, but Slanesh is one of the big 4.
Would it make Leopold hide from Sigmar? I don't think so.
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's
I've
interesting.
only used it really around demons and spirits, and only successfully once. So I have 1 point in it.
It basically means of Scotland in Gaelic, but the dashes should just be spaces, right?
Ah, okay, yeah. I'd be
it's-
Naherin. That should be of Ireland. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
But then Slanesh came back and is cooler than ever. Right, so would one of you want to make a character who makes a cult of the desert gods?
No.
I don't know. I think, but, like, the desert gods are the gods that the people of
Is that the ancient?
that like
Neherkarans?
ancient Nehakarans.
Yeah. Like
Or is
some of
it-
the Egypt-inspired ones.
Who are the Kemri? Who are they?
Oh, see, this is why we need a lore master.
Yeah, why
That
not?
is like the same, right? Like
Are they?
the Tomb Kings of Kemri, like Kemri.
Ah, yeah. Because like in my head, again, I go back to whatever edition of
Oh,
Fantasy
Lord.
Battle it was, and the undead were just one faction. They had all everything in one, and that's still kind of how it is for me. So
Yeah,
I start seeing like Tomb Kings and
Yeah,
all the
Kemri
ones I'm
became the
like, I have no
Tomb
idea.
Kings.
Yeah, so Kemri was the chief city of
Yeah.
Nehekara, which was
Yeah.
the country.
Yes, yeah. So the desert gods of the Nehekar, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that it might be quite cool. But I guess, like, see, the thing is, would one of you want to make a character who makes a cult of the desert gods? I guess it depends on how you view the gods in Warhammer as to whether you need to, or whether gods that are gods of a concept are just renamed in other cultures and are the same god. Like, there's a whole existential debate and metaphysical debate in Warhammer about what the gods are and which gods are the same gods as other gods.
Yeah. I mean, what would be fun? Like I mentioned before that I had an idea for a necromancer character I was interested in playing, and in particular, but I was keen to play a necromancer character who wasn't an obviously cliched necromancer who was channeling Dar and corrupting and mutating and becoming awful. That could be quite an interesting take on that. Like someone who was almost like a Tomb Raider type character who whose magic kind of awakened and can do necromancy, but by somehow a connection with the sort of the desert god somehow allowing him to do it without kind of having to use Dar. Like that would be quite interesting. Yeah. But I'm going to stop thinking about that because I don't want to distract myself from my other existing character idea that I have.
Thank you for the super chat, Jen. Hi, I came to watch the Soltec episode and now I'm binge watching from the beginning on episode 32 now. Thanks for the entertainment. No, thank you for binge watching.
Jen, who's your favorite character and why is it Elric?
Do not bully our new viewers.
No, I'm just clearly that Elric will be their favorite. So
Of course.
He's not Hassett.
Sotek, thanks, Sotek. There's an argument that Nehikaran gods are just gods that already have worshippers among the elves and northern groups of humans under different names and identities. I don't follow that myself. Yeah, interesting. I don't necessarily follow that either. All gods are Ladriel. After missing the side ep, what is Elric's opinion of Sienna? Did you like her?
She hates the Bright College.
Mm-hmm. Understandably, right.
She gave him a fucking amazing magical staff. So they're tight.
Yeah, she's his best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, so she, because of the state of that we were all in after Brass Keep, I think Elric had to be contained from her because he was just releasing Actuate, and she was the only one who could kind of contain it. So she nursed him and then gave him a good chat around kind of what he is doing and how he can still be a Bright without having to become a college member, let's say, or a cult member. So yeah, Sienna is cool in his book.
Cool. Knowing Andy is big on letting certain people use out-of-character lore knowledge at a cost. How hard is it to stay on top of that to ensure it doesn't happen? Really hard. I'd be really paranoid about that. I am really paranoid about that.
And
it's really hard.
It's the stuff that we stream that our characters don't know. So like the stuff in the Magnus Chamber is fine because that was a vision that we all had, so we all saw that. Great. The stuff that happened in the Magnus Chamber, we know that. But then some of the other flashback side streams that we played are not. Or there's like a side stream, like the side stream, the sort of Lindsay and Sage side stream, that then had like a little bit at the end that wasn't about you two. And I'm like, that's game-changing knowledge.
But none of us know.
We don't have it. We all had to watch it. And I'm like, I'd kind of like a warning of I'm about to do an out-of-character thing you don't know, so I could just go la 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 and just like not have it in my head.
Yeah.
Those are the things I get very confused with.
I don't get confused by them. What I get confused with is all the lore I have in my head about elves, about different games that I think that I've learned that Alamenoith, I'm just like, well, she must know that because but Joe Ross is such a dick that he hasn't taught her that. And Andy's like, no, you don't know that. You don't have lore, Althun. How the fuck would you know that? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And then he's like, so, well, it must have come from somewhere. And I'm like, damn it happened again. And I didn't realize that to begin with, that a few of those had slipped out. So I had to really just, I really clamped down on myself and was just like, no, I'm not going to assume that I know anything about elves or anything ever. Did I just not fully get it? But I got confused about the Nagash Witch of the Wood crown, and if anything more may come from that. I don't think it was the Witch of the Wood that had Nagash's crown. It was a necromancer called Lore Master. Put it in the chat. I feel like I've got my own personal lore master over there.
Did we think it was?
But we thought it was Marathi, but it is a named character in Warhammer lore that happens to have a name similar to Marathi, which we have interpreted as being Marathi, but it's definitely, thank you. Thank you, babes. Marath the Necromancer, that Andy suggested in reality was Marathi, but we don't know. And Alamenoith, the Witch of the Woods, we believe had been part of that elf group who had built Brass Keep around about the time that Marath the Necromancer may have been there. and Alamenowith, the Witch of the Woods, had seen Peak Leveler go into Brass Peak and some stuff happened there that she couldn't perceive. And so she knew that if herself in the future couldn't be perceived, and she couldn't perceive that, then herself in the future may have some connection to Peak Leveler, I think. But I don't know. Like, I didn't even know for months in the game who the Witch of the Woods was, or that, like, I might have been this, you know, a lot of things. And there's still more to come out on that I don't know. And there's stuff to come out that I do know that the players don't know.
The bit that I'm still unsure if we've just decided is the case or not, or that like we know as PCs or not, is the whole G-Thog being suspicious thing. I'm pretty sure there's one of those we weren't there, but it happened side things after one of our episodes where the Gilded Boar lady goes up to G-Thog and they have that very suspicious conversation.
And that one's we definitely don't know, because I checked that with Andy, and before I went to see the Gilded Boar lady, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I don't know that, but I had some other reason to be suspicious of her, but I don't know." But also that therefore might not have been real. That also might have been an unreliable narrator thing, and that's what I really struggle with keeping right in my head. Which is why my plan for my next character has no visions, has no supernatural stuff at all, just to keep my mind really clear. But although now this freaking necromancer idea has wormed its way into my brain, and god damn it, because Lindsay knows quite a lot about what my other character idea is, because we were trying to work out a connection with Alan anyway. But now I've got this other idea. Hopefully it'll go away overnight. Damn it.
And I haven't started to tease Andy yet, but I will be doing it soon about how... Oh, no, I can't say any of that because it's too much of a spoiler. I'll tell you tomorrow how I'm going to annoy you for the next few months.
Uh-oh.
It involves... Yeah, I know, right? You're going to be so annoyed as well. All I'm going to say is... Like, was Shakespeare a real person?
No, it's a collection of people.
Look at his, come on, do it. Was he though?
You are both being willfully ignorant and ignoring documented historical facts.
It was a nom de guerre.
You are snobs and classists, one and all, and I disdain you.
It was 84 people.
Yeah.
And
they were all Ladriel. They're all Ladriel, all scarves all the way down. It must be Golden Chaos. It must be fairly meta to play an amnesiac elf where there are consequences for her past memories leaking through, while also being an IRL Warhammer fan trying not to let her memories of Warhammer leak through. It really is, especially when there's characters that I knew. Like, I was taken so by surprise by Boris Todbringer, because the Boris Todbringer I knew was such a different character to this Boris Todbringer. And like, I know I didn't think that I had brought assumptions like with me about certain characters. I thought, but clearly I had, because Boris keeps doing things and I'm like, oh my God, like, well, I actually quite like this guy, or, oh wow, he's really X, Y, or Z. So yeah, it is hard. It is meta.
Okay. I mean, same for me with Emmanuel Ferrand. Like, it hasn't impacted my character's behavior, but you know, in a previous game, my character was his son, so there's some baggage there.
Yeah, daddy issues. Yeah.
Maybe you should. Yeah. The nipple should be in that sandwich.
Yeah, in a previous game, Boris was my my character's father-in-law. So yeah. Tricky.
Again, that Heinrich was very different as well, wasn't he? So yeah.
Heinrich's all like, I'm just like, no, we can't get into the Heinrich issues. We just can't do it again. I need therapy for the Heinrich issues. Like, this Heinrich, like, are we ever going to get a good, nice Heinrich? That's all I want. He's got so much potential.
Please.
Do you all have some tips on role-playing in-character conversations? I love doing it, but I'm really bad at it. Do you mean as a player or as a GM?
assuming as a player.
As a player, let's get into it. Thoughts, people?
I think every role-playing book has this, and I think everyone often skips by it just to get into their stats and everything else in class and all that.
Yeah.
But it is having like your core tenets of belief as your character. So what does your character stand for? What's their background? You know, those kind of things. I think once you've got a good grasp, a firm grasp on that, in-character conversations are a little bit easier. You know how you're going to react in character as opposed to as a person.
Yeah, we also did at the start, and we've done it a couple of times since. It's really important to have clear things in your head about how you feel and think about the other characters. So we sat down when we first planned the group and sort of said how we felt based on our backgrounds, we felt about each other. And then we did the pre-stream sort of like role playing, and then we reset those to amend like, well, how did it actually like fall out in play? And then you kind of have that grid in front of you, and it's sort of like a compass for how you interact with the other PCs around the table. Like Alan Menowith will always be a little bit more like indulgent with Gerhardt earlier on in the campaign, and she was always a little bit more like, because she knew Leopold so well, she'd always because you feel differently about different people, it subtly changes the way you role play the character conversations between the people at the table, and that can be really good. And you can revisit it, and actually it's really good to revisit it because it's kind of nice to see how relationships and your characters have all changed, because they do.
Yeah, it's like it's a good reflective process too.
It is, yeah.
I'm still mad about being called a brat.
Yeah, stand by it. I think as well, like something that Andy drilled into us from the start as well, is really trying to ensure that you're sharing the spotlight and putting the spotlight on others as well. And I think that's one of the things that's always in my mind, that if someone hasn't spoken up, get it onto them, ask their character a question, give them a chance to be a part. And I think it's been quite good for us. I don't think we've ever had episodes where I've never walked out and felt that I've not talked enough as Elric or anything like that. So I hope everyone else would feel the same.
Yeah. I not to give your ego more of a boost, but I read a comment the other day praising you for that specifically, Dan. So well done.
Nice. I think the other thing is you can make it low stakes, right? That's the other thing with in-character conversations. Like, so many of the conversations you have in character are big important things, like world-ending things, or what's our plan going to be, or how are we going to defeat the big monster, or whatever it is. But like, finding opportunities for little quiet in-character low-stakes conversations are good. And that's one of the things I think that is a bit hard to squeeze in the mainstream, but just because there's so many of us and there's a lot of plot for us to get through. But that's one of the reasons I think the side streams are so useful, because they're a good opportunity to kind of have more of those. So like, if we think about like the one Sage that Leopold and Yumi had in Middenheim, like the second half of that became very plot based, because I created that oracle role, and we're like, oh my god, we can find the cultists. But the first half of that was very much just about us talking about like characters, and then gods, and then Sigmar cock blocking you, and all of those things. But like, those quieter, more human, more kind of like low stakes conversations are really important, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I plan out my real life conversations ahead of time anyway, so planning out PC conversations is not that different. I think it's a neurodivergent thing apparently, but maybe like neurodivergent people do it.
I never knew that. I am gonna now just throw absolute fucking curveballs in conversations and see.
You're so mean. Casper says, for me, this is often the quick thinking from how I would think versus how my PC thinks to new info. I can do it, but often takes longer than a conversation would allow me. See, I have a different challenge. I find it easy to think about how the role-playing bit of it But when Andy, the GM, puts me on the spot to say, what's your character going to do? If I'm playing a character who's very different to like, who's not risk averse, I'll often like revert, like I'll to be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I'm like, no, but that character would have been like more aggressive, or that character would have done this. So I do find that quite challenging. And I do wonder whether like to think of some techniques for that is to have 3 or 4 words that your character is that's very different from you as a person, and use them as a touch point for when I make a decision, when I make an action, like these are the 4 words that should sort of characterize, rather than what I would do. We had that recently, didn't we, Sage, in the meeting with Volkmar, where we reacted like we would in a work situation, trying to pacify, trying to be good people, trying to be nice people, trying to make them like us, when actually we just needed to be absolute, like, yeah, we're threatening you. Yeah, what's your problem? No, my elf can stay. What are you talking about? Like, we've come, I'm a princess. I've come here to tell you something, to help you in your cult. And you've got the temerity to treat me and my servant like that. Outrageous, Volkmar. But we were like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
So I find that hard.
Yeah, me too. It's a good opportunity to practice things about your real life that you want to work on, though. I do find that as well. But that word thing, it helps with accents as well, I find. Sometimes if you're struggling with an accent, like if you're totally not used to one, it doesn't work. But if it's one that you're kind of okay at and you slip in and out of, having like a phrase or a few words that you know how to say in that accent can help you bring you back.
Yeah. Say if you've been playing Expedition 33 and then you had to play a Bretonian who's sort of like, you'd have a good few words. Oh, Sampa. Like, you could do that. Maman.
I like patat.
Patat. Silly patat.
Silly
patat. But I mean, I think, you know, the unspoken thing
very
as well,
left out by this.
We've got 3 years, just French swear words, merde. We've had 3 years of playing the same characters, so a lot of reactions that we have are pretty much internalized, I would say, at this point. But still, as Lindsay said, there are kind of moments where you're like, fuck, what would Alamanawite do or Elric do in this moment?
And it's one of those, if Andy allows you a few seconds, which sometimes he does deliberately and sometimes he doesn't deliberately, but if it's one of the ones where you have got a second to pause, like I find like vocalizing externally what he's thinking is quite useful before so sometimes I was going, if it's a conversation with an NPC, say, I'd be like, we just pause for a second, like just to think about what's going through Leopold's head at this moment. Externalize what his inner monologue would be, and that then helps me, right, I'm back in the room now, and then we can carry on. And I wouldn't do that if we were having a PC conversation very often, because it wouldn't be fair to the other player. But you know, sometimes it's useful thing.
Yeah, but also I think we have a lot more pressure in a sense to do it quickly because we're on a stream. Like if you're doing a home game, like ask your GM for more time. Like, you know.
You're all brilliant. Love what you do. I'm a complete shut-in due to my anxiety. Really look forward to following your adventures every week. So massive thanks again for what you all do. Thank you. Thanks. There's a few of us who are neurodivergent, who have like long-term health conditions in LAWhammer, and so like if you get some joy from what we do, then we absolutely empathize with you, and we're really happy for you. I certainly, like, over the years, role-playing has massively helped me with my anxiety. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like going outside, but it's, like, I don't mind it for LAWhammer.
And I'm the complete opposite. I get more anxiety from role-playing now, but that's a...
Yeah, that's a different story. Yeah.
That's an Andy Law experience.
Yeah, whereas I just have anxiety all the time, and roleplay just gives me somewhere to put it. Like, I'm not worrying about real life. I'm like worrying about the Emperor. Like, what could be better? It's amazing. Is it true that Andy Law cannot do it? No, he can do a French accent. I was talking about like my French accent. His French accent's fine.
To be honest, I think we can all do like an outrageous French accent.
We can all do Monty Python. Like,
it's not. It's doing a non-offensive one.
Nah,
I've switched my Duolingo to French. Actually, I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah.
I have nightmares of my French lessons. Nothing against French people, but like my French lessons growing up were just horrible. Well, one teacher just sat us in front of Asterix and Obelix for a year
Oh,
and then
great.
expected us to learn French. Like, it's a great show, but like I did not learn French from it.
I didn't think I remembered, like, I was that great with French. And then when I was at work, we started to do coffee break Spanish years ago. And I was like, can we not do coffee break French so I can, like, brush up on my French? They were all like, no, we want to do Spanish. We're going to Spain. And every time I tried to encode something in my brain and remember it and, like, say the thing in Spanish, it would just come out in French. And I was like, the languages were too close. It was in my head. Just no. It was so hard.
Well, that's what I find. Spanish. I've been doing Spanish for like 3 years, I think, and I still, if I try to talk to my colleagues who are Spanish, like I couldn't off the top of my head think of any of the words. I thought like it just wasn't in. Whereas I hadn't done French since I was like 16 at school, and yet I could have some conversation.
They just like come out. Like, I don't know why, because like I can read, well, not great now, but like I learned Latin, I learned French. I figured like another language would be fine. And then when I started learning Norwegian, I've got no problem with like reading Danish and like reading a bit of Swedish and keeping those apart. And like German, I started to learn and it's fine. But like French and Spanish are just like merged in my head. It's really annoying. The box for French and Spanish is the same box. I need to split up the boxes.
The Latin love languages, I suppose, do have a lot of crossover.
Yeah, but it's like, but Latin's got different boxes. I think it's because I learned to read and write Latin and never to speak it. I think maybe that's the difference. Don't know. It's just a weird thing.
I can just swear in different languages. I guess people, I don't know. Definitely people who are watching probably don't know, but English isn't my first language. Irish is.
Yeah.
But basically at this point, English may as well be my first language because we don't speak it back home anyway. But yeah, in my other abilities for languages, I did French for like 9 years with the teacher who had the like thickest County Navan or County Meath Navan accent. We even went to France and he spoke French with his accent, and even the French were just like, "Je ne comprends pas." So yeah, my French, I know the words, but I can't speak it. Just swear. Like firm tombouche.
Just walked into this. Moritz Vonderborg. Happy to see 4 glorious heroic faces. As a Dutchman, I hope we'll get to hear some outrageous Dunglish in Marienburg. Oh, you will.
Yeah.
I had
one of my side characters, the one that I think you played in a previous game, or like
Birgitte van der Heugenband.
Yes. When Andy was giving me the spiel, he was like, this version, we can make her that she went through like Tillian stuff and she can have a different accent, but her like original one is like an outrageous
Dutch accent. Yeah.
And I can't do an outrageous Dutch.
Crazy.
Maybe I'll work on it.
Yeah, at the time when I was playing Birgitte van der Heugenband, I had a few Dutch friends. I had an American who was moving to the Netherlands, so was learning Dutch. Her husband, who'd grown up in the Netherlands, who was like Scottish Dutch, and a few other people. The place I worked had just bought a Dutch bank, so I was working with a lot of Dutch people. So I had a lot of inspiration for my accent, and not just the accent, because I think what's really important when you're trying to do different accents is the construction of the language that is natural in that country. So in the Dutch people I was speaking to, they would use the, Andy, help me here, they would use the form of the verb that's the, like...
English teacher, go.
Like, I'm...
English teacher, name a part of a case that you can't articulate what that case is.
And instead of saying... No, like, the continuous present. The continuous present, I think.
Like ing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they'd be like, I am walking. Like, you wouldn't say I go, you say like I am going. And so there was a lot of like constructions of English that you didn't, that were just different to how you would usually say it in English, that added to
not
the...
how we... we construct sentences like that in English. I'd never say
Oh,
I go to the shop. I say I
We've
am
got the
going.
flexibility.
We've got the flexibility, but with the Dutch people I was speaking to, the ones that we would say I am going to the shop, they would say it, but the ones where we would say I, and we wouldn't use the continuous present, they would use the continuous present for as well. So everything was in the continuous present.
She'd say chum me to the shop, and they'd be like, what?
Yeah. So yeah, it was good.
All right, I'm gonna have to duck out. So thank you all. Thanks all for the chats and questions about Elric. And I'll leave you with the 3 supporting actors.
Au revoir. À bientôt.
Yes, he's
Volkswagen.
gone.
Bonjour.
I need to briefly leave, but I'll be right back.
Okay. We may be finishing soon anyway, I would think. We're already at 5 to 10.
Yeah. I didn't realize we were going to go this far. It's been nice, though.
No, me neither. I think we just decided to go as far as we had, and we've kind of gone through all the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
some
not
people
sure
are
if
asking
it's the
about-
continuous present. Oh, sorry, what are they asking about?
Just other people talking about accent and whether Andy Laws can do a Welsh accent. From
He cannot.
Chaos.
No, and the problem
Welsh
that
is
we've...
hard, though.
Welsh is hard because it's really easy in Welsh to go into a really offensive kind of Pakistani sort of
Yeah,
Indian
Pakistan.
accent.
I
And
think it's got that same like melodic.
yeah, well,
tone
what
to
it's
it.
got is that I was explaining this saying this to someone who was Welsh, and they were like, "Do you know? I think that's right." It's got a very similar, like, as you say, melodic, but in Welsh, it's more like a dotted crotchet rhythm, and in Indian, it's more like a plain like da-da, whereas in Welsh, it's like da-da, and if you do it da-da, you sound offensively. Sort of South Asian?
Yeah, Southeast
Yeah.
Asian.
Southeast Asian, yeah. And we don't really want to do that.
No.
I mean, we don't want to sound offensively Welsh either.
No, but I don't know. I feel like with accents, right, it really depends on who's doing it and the history behind that. So,
what's your understanding of the fox versus Renald having scruffy winged cat as divine servant?
yeah, so I haven't used it in ages because it like caused loads of corruption. But there's the cat's eyes miracle in Renald career, which essentially lets you see through a cat's eyes. And the idea is that Renald is kind of represented by cats, usually in the Empire, at least from my understanding. We changed that to the fox for Ume because it made sense that she had a spirit familiar, sort of, not really sure what it is, and so it became Fox's eyes. So it wasn't a surprise to see a cat. Hello. I think it was a surprise to see a winged cat. I don't think I'd come across that necessarily, but also, as I said, Ume has barely any lore theology, so that's not saying much. Yeah, so that's kind of my understanding. Divine servant was always like a divine servant of who? Was the big question. So like there's also a question there about is Ume really the best person to understand that based on her background. I know we were saying that we were going to wrap up soon, but there's maybe a couple bits from Caravan's like
Oh yeah, of course. I'll get Hieronymus. Where in the Empire would you settle on an Australian accent? Well, interestingly, many moons ago, Sigmar's Heirs came out in Withrop 2nd edition, and Sigmar's Heirs had a description of the accents of the provinces, and that kind of settled like what we used in our iteration of Warhammer. So Nordland and Sigmar's Heirs were described as like rough and like tumbling out of a barrel and a lot of swearing. So we were like obviously Scottish. Ostermark was described as like a mummer's accent that people are used, so we had picked I don't know how to put that. I'm going to change what my thought there. But Null was described in Wizenland in Sigmar's Ears was described as having like a really flat monotone accent, and Null was described as having an uplift at the end of sentences, even when they weren't questions, which is quite. It's a feature of the Australian accent. So you might like sharp-eyed viewers will notice in streams every now and then Alamenawaith has said, are they from Null? And that's because I notice Andy doing it, happened in a recent stream, doing an uplift at the end of a sentence that isn't a question. And the more common you are in Null, like the more Australian your accent sounds, whereas the nobles, like most nobles in the Empire, have that kind of what we've interpreted as received pronunciation, although the Countess still does a lift at the end of her sentences, even though they're not questions. So that's what we settled on. But you can do whatever you like in your hammer. It's just how it worked for us.
Exactly. Like it's a bit like Australian / Valley Girl, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like you say, you could, and like if you were all Australian, for instance, then instead of trying to do the accents we're doing, you might think about different regional Australian accents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what we really encouraged people to do when we're thinking about it. Like, take your own. The Empire works best when it's a reflection of your own sort of the world around you that you know. You know, so for us, Talabhec Land is kind of Irish, and Hochland, who's got a bit of an antagonist, like are they not relationship with Talabhec Land, are more Northern Irish in terms of their accent. What winged animal would freak you out the most? That normally doesn't have wings.
I mean, winged snakes would be pretty alarming.
Oh.
Right?
That's just a dragon, no? Like an Eastern dragon.
I guess.
Yeah, but if they were the size of snakes, poisonous.
Yeah, flying around.
Like a flying
I kind of like snakes.
Yeah. We'll get to this one too, because Dragon Magic has asked us a few times. I just missed it earlier. Winged people in the chat are like winged spider, winged scorpion, winged leech.
A couple of winged scorpions, yeah.
Winged leech is horrible.
Or like I suppose something like an elephant, right? Because A, you would want it to land or fall on you. That would be bad. But also, well, you wouldn't want anything else to fall on you as well, if you can infer. Yeah.
Sure. I feel like a winged giraffe would be funny because they'd really struggle with their like balance. I feel.
Yeah, with aerodynamics.
Yeah. A winged giraffe.
They have the same number of.
They fly by whipping their neck around like a helicopter.
Yeah. They don't have enough vertebrae for that. They have the same number as humans. So they're like
a winged rhino doing an air charge. In my language, Russian, we have like 4 big accents, 2 of which don't differ that much. Yeah, so I can get that. So in the UK, we've got so many regional accents. Like they're so, and you can tell distinct to like one town that's 10 miles away from another by the way they pronounce like Macam is the famous one in Sunderland and Newcastle. But we've also got
they call things rolls or baps.
Exactly, but there's also class differences within those regional areas as well. So yeah, the UK accents are so stratified that we could just like go for ages. Like we've got different Nordlander accents that represent different kinds of Nordlanders that probably most of our viewers like don't get the distinction between. But for me and Andy Leese, we're like, oh yeah, we know what that means for that Nordlander.
Yeah, Metagaming. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but then Alamenawaith and Leopold have lived up north.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, that makes sense for them. Yeah. Whereas it doesn't necessarily make sense for others. And yeah, so it is a challenge. I'm not sure what I'd suggest because obviously you have to be really cautious. You can say, well, just take accents from... Yeah, it's tricky. I'm not sure what I would suggest. Casper, in Flanders, you walk 2 meters and you can't understand each other. Not really, but we act like we can. Yeah, so filling out the Empire map was not too hard. Yeah. So Flanders sounds similar to the lowlands of the UK. Right, I'll go back to I just love accent stuff. Finnish also has tons of accents to the effect that people from opposing sides of the country might have difficulty understanding each other, having completely different words for things. Yeah, like Norwegian's the same, with like different dialects all over the place, 2 different written standards of language.
Italy also has like
Yeah.
different full-on languages within it. I do find that, I don't know, the class thing is much more pervasive in the UK.
Yeah.
The different accents based on class, like it happens in Italy as well. Like, but I don't know, it feels more established.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, more regional. So there's like your top one, that like that really posh received pronunciation, which would be the same anywhere you go and is indicative of something very rarefied in your education. But then there's subtle differences in your locale. There's a very different Edinburgh accent for the bit of Edinburgh I'm from than another bit of Edinburgh and another bit of Edinburgh. Right, so I will get back to Dragon Magic. So one last time, I'll ask, what villain do y'all not want to meet again?
Not want to. Oh, I misread it the first time. I've been preparing wrong. Not want to meet again.
I mean, that little prick Gideon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so over Gideon. Anytime Andy does the little laugh, I'm like, not this guy again.
I'm really,
that's central to the story. So
Gideon is one of the ones I'm totally kicking myself about, because I was like, see, when we summoned Gideon, why didn't I say to him, like, you really love this place, the physical world, and you want to stay here, but like your big bosses want to destroy it. Like, come and help us. Like, ditch those guys. We could have had a double agent. Like, we could have seduced chaos away from chaos. I was like, damn it, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
And I really wish, I had done that in hindsight, but hindsight.
I'm super over Thanquol's like magic lightning thing.
I can imagine.
Did not like that. Also, just in general, like any like sea creatures we met, like on a barge, not a fan as well. Ume was, tentacle monsters and things throwing her into the water. Not a fan.
Marit says Dagmar fight was a nightmare for the heroes. Elric's and Dan sacrifice a few fate points in that one fight just to be able to even go toe to toe with Dagmar and see him off.
But
we think he's alive, really like,
if he is alive and he is a threat, I don't think we'd not want to encounter him, because I think we feel like we've got unfinished business with him. So even if it cost us fate points or even characters, like that would be okay, because that would be a nemesis returning and blah blah. I don't think I'd mind dying to that. I don't want to die to Dagmar, but I don't think I'd mind that from a narrative perspective. But
I know, Wolfgang. You could argue he's not a villain, but the psychological damage I received was
emotional damage. I don't know. I'm really trying to think. Like, I would have said Gideon before, because I'm with you. I find him really creepy and just like terrifying to know how to deal with. But I also feel like I'm sure there's one. You've got one.
Just because of the delicious irony of it, and it's the one that Andy sowed in the side stream that Sage and I did in Middenheim, which is the cultist woman who we never managed to see off in Middenheim, who in his vision, Leopold, because she changes her face, but her eyes are always the same, and in his vision, Leopold has seen her eyes, but Leopold will never be able to see her eyes.
It was her nose.
Was it her nose? But there was like one detail that he could recognize if he ever saw her, but he'll never see her. And like that Cassandra, like, he's the only person in the party who could spot her, and he cannot spot her. So we could be talking to her.
It was the nose.
Right now, she could be in Imperial Palace right now. And unless we get lucky, he's never going to notice, and no one else is going to notice, because he's the only one that can see it, but he can never see it in her. And nose, thank you.
I don't want to meet the entity, and whether it was actually G-Thodge who was the entity that Birdie saw eat her from the feet up. We don't know that, but whatever that thing was, I do not want to meet that. Have we met it? Arguably not. Do I want to meet it again? 100% not. That thing just creeps me the fuck out.
Yeah. Also, maybe like, what's the demon that was following Grim? Karnak?
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't want to meet that, would you?
We're just not equipped for that kind
Not
of
yet.
fight.
Not yet. We'll get there.
Growth mindset.
Yeah, growth mindset. Come on, we'll get there. Okay. Question for Andy. Please, can you save the idea of a Desert God's Necromancer character for the future?
Sure. There's no getting rid of it. It's in my head now. Whether it supplants my current next character idea that I'm very excited by or not, I don't know. But it's definitely in there, and I will chat to Andy about it. And if he feels it's a better fit for the campaign, then actually maybe he will be my next character. Or maybe he'll exist as a side stream or an NPC, or I'll write him into something that we write in the future.
Any Skaven Gracier in terms of bad guys you don't want to meet again? Yeah.
For sure.
Right. Is that us?
Well, do you
2210? Yep.
Questions?
No.
We get...
Is Gerhardt a real boy? We just don't know.
I think yes. If Gerhardt wants to be a real boy, Gerhardt's a real boy. He's got the memories.
Yes.
He's a real boy.
Yes.
Give him a hug.
Yeah.
There's one for you, Andy. I don't know the answer to this.
Oh,
The
Path of the Seafarer.
The Path of the Mariner.
The Mariner. Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think that's what he was on, but I think that's what he was going on because he was about to go.
He was about to go on a journey.
Because he was heartbroken, he was changing path, I think.
Oh,
I might be slightly misremembering, but I think that's what Andy gave us like a 10-minute debrief download.
Yeah.
Here's the stuff. But he was heartbroken, and whatever happened at the end of this meeting, he was going to leave and go off and travel around the world. And I believe he was going to move on to the Path of the Mariner, or had moved on to the Path of the Mariner.
Yeah. And I think in the rules, this might be wrong, but I think you keep your attributes and your skills, but you lose the talents that you got through. So you sort of, in a way, become a different person when you move paths. Will Ume ever get to use the demon killing sword to kill a demon? We just don't know.
Well, she has in the fight with Dagmar. A demon came up, and she...
Oh, yeah.
Whilst everyone was worried with Dagmar.
Yeah, that's also one. That was also one of Caravan's questions.
Yes. I mean, I hope she's going to get to use that to behead Gideon. That's what I hope.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, right? Like, I don't know. I'm usually quite reserved in my use of magical items.
Mm-hmm.
I think they cheapen them if you use them all the time, and you're kind of taking the mick, I think, as well, if you use them all the time. Like, I don't want them to feel like a gimmick, so they come out when it's really important. So yeah, she will use the sword, but also it's gonna be a dire moment when we get to see the sword.
And Moritz, we did talk earlier about Ume's character, what she might do in the future, and hopefully will continue to the paths of the old ones.
Yeah, I mean, one of the
we
things
all get there
is I think she wants to know more about magic and her history than her dad, so she can like tell him he's wrong. I think it's the next step.
What do you all think are in the GM blogs, apart from how well you're all doing, of course?
Compliments, praise.
Yeah, nothing but compliments and praise.
I'm assuming that Andy gives you a little bit of chat about the decisions he made that are maybe different to the published version, whether they were him and Graham's original decisions or whether there's something that Andy's developed. I assume he gives you a bit of insight into the stuff we get wrong and the assumptions we make and the paths we go down. And I'm assuming he gives you the things we miss. And I'm assuming he gives you a bit of insight into like NPCs motivations that we would simply never get to know, either because we don't even know those NPCs are on the scene, or because obviously we don't get to see in NPCs' heads. So that is what I'm assuming is the kind of stuff you get.
Or bits like the fact that our like the emperor that we saved got killed immediately, right? He talked a little bit about how funny that was and stuff on Discord.
Because he'd got loads of plans about what to do with him. Yeah.
I'm assuming in the GM blogs there's more of that as well, of like, I planned for this and then they totally did something else.
Yeah. And I know Andy has a few systems for tracking things across the Empire. I'm assuming he might keep you up to date on the tracking of that. You know, like, I don't know what they are. I think I know what one is, because he mentioned it to me. It's kind of obliquely. I think he told us all about it, but that's sort of like a number for how he tracks power of certain factions. I'm assuming he maybe keeps you updated on some of them sometimes. Those are my thoughts.
So just compliments and praise, because we
on how great we're going against all of those yardsticks. Yeah. How does everyone feel after big rat revelations and the decisions they made?
So is that like in terms of the episode where we could have been like those of us who were others, and is that what he's getting at?
I don't know. Oh yeah, that when we all had to make that decision.
Yeah. So like Gerhardt's decision that the southern one was the real one.
Yeah, I don't think
the southern one was the real one.
I got to make a decision and I made a decision based on what I thought was best at that moment in the room. And then I realized that meant something else for everyone outside the room. And I kind of regretted my decision. And I did that classic, like, I don't know, you try to do the best for the person you're in the moment of and inhabiting, rather than thinking about, right, actually, like, take a step back. What would be best for us as PCs right now to happen? I'm kind of at peace with the decision I made.
You kind of have to be, because
you have to be, but I'm at peace. I think, like, it's really easy to look at a decision and be like, oh my god, I made such a bad decision, because if I decided the other thing, like, then that wouldn't have happened up there. But actually, I don't know what would have happened in the room if I'd made the decision that I had the chance to make. I mean, for one thing, if the avatar of Ladriel was in that room and I made the decision I made, he might not be alive anymore. Like, that's how big the decision I made to put something in or out of that room. And I would have been devastated if my decision had made, like, the avatar of Ladriel be like...
And, like, by choosing the southern Leopold to be the real one and the northern one to be Shadowpold, like, that, that's obviously bad, because that has allowed Be'lakor to fuck off to Albion, which is one of the heralds.
You stole my sword.
I mean, but more than that, like, that's a marker of the end times, like him getting free. Yeah, like, like, that's not good. But similarly, if it flipped the other way, then that means Be'lakor, for whatever reason, was down there in that room.
Yeah, but I think,
people. So again,
but we don't know that, like you're saying that, but I don't think that Sage and I, in character, or even like out of character, know that Be'lakor.
No, we don't.
It's the sign of the end times, right? We don't know that.
No, we do. We do.
No, but we don't know that Shadowpold. Like, okay, tell me.
I'm going to take. We know, right? So we know that whatever was trapped in the Demon's Bowl, if it gets out, that's the start of the end time. We know that.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, that's written in Leopold's book, and we don't. I don't think he's written the name Be'lakor, although he's heard the name Be'lakor. But from what Julius told us, like, we were able to work out that entity that he was talking about in terms of that first demon prince. We don't have concrete evidence, but there was enough that I had it kind of written in there that he was probably that at the time. So yeah, so we don't know it for sure.
Basically, you think, right, out of character, your theory is that, and maybe a bit in character, but out of character, you think that a bit of Be'lakor is stuck in the Demon's Bowl and a bit is stuck in Albion. like trapped, and Shadow Leopold's mission is like to get to Albion to release.
Shadow Leopold was the bit of him that was trapped in the Demon's Bowl.
Right. Okay. Got you. Well, that sounds really bad.
When Shadow Leopold like arrived there and then ditched the constructed Leopold's body, he had like big fucking horns and wings and shit.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
like
then
this big but was a big shadowy form. He wasn't a physical form. So I think it's like part of his spirit.
The spirit. Yeah.
we think it's part of the spirit, but also because Ume has told people about how in her history his physical body is trapped in more sleep.
But remember, he was active in Moortime, where a big bit of Moorsleep came down. So what if he was in that?
So maybe he was, or maybe part of him. Or...
And that's what got bound in the Demon's Bowl, the part of him that came down.
So
basically, the actual answers to these questions to allow you to understand, that's what we think Andy tells you in the GM blogs. See this thing we've just done, we're like, we think it might be this, and we've theorized this, which means that. We think you might know.
And that's it. And this does hark back to an earlier question about how we keep the out of character stuff out of our head. Like I think with this one, what we've actually done is we've overcompensated.
I think so.
We don't know that. And then I flicked through my notes and went, no, we did know that. I've written down that we worked that out. I'm convincing myself I don't know that it's them because I'm like, no, I didn't know we did. Like you,
we did.
And we heard that story and we saw that. And,
mine to answer this question, mine was not really like plot relevant right now, but Andy has said that we will find out about, Ume will have an opportunity to find out in the future the thing that I decided, and it might be plot relevant then. But I don't know how it connects at the moment, and none of the others know because I haven't told them. So secrets.
Yes. Moritz, don't worry. We didn't talk that much about Yumi's character. We just talked a little bit about how all our characters, whether we want them to continue and what we might do with them next. So.
Plus, I love talking about Ume, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Casper loves the episode between Wittgenstein blowing up and Start of Behind the Throne. I can watch those time and time again. It feels like a sitcom kind of. Yeah, we got a mean comment, didn't we, saying that like we were bad because we'd made Warhammer too much of a drama, and it shouldn't be a drama. It should be really gritty, and that they should have got like real players, not actors. And we were like, oh, someone thinks we're actors.
I'm gonna put actor on my CV now.
Actor.
I know.
We were like, I was really excited by that mean comment because I thought it was quite a compliment for us. And like, if you're not doing drama, like, what's the point? These people have lives and like loves and hopes and dreams. Like, what does this person want us to be doing? Like,
he wants us to be in a fucking Zack Snyder movie. That's what he wants.
Yeah. Pie Guy says the stream is really fun to listen to. By the way, that's good. That's the dream. So I think that's us. I think that we've covered the big revelations. Do they view it's dangerous to let certain players not be around? Oh, like when Andy Lease goes away, and I think we're just unlucky.
Yeah.
Sure.
We're just unlucky.
Yes.
Saying nothing.
There's no dark and grim without good characters and something light to lose. Yeah, that's what we think. There's no like dark without humor. And I think if you look at like gallows humor, doctor's humor, soldier's humor in the real world, like that's just how people cope with really dark and difficult situations. That's how we cope.
I overdid it when I made that joke about princesses dying. Like I felt the room go.
Yeah, like Alamenowith was like, too soon, Umi, too soon. But she didn't say anything because she wasn't undermining you.
Well
That's good.
We'd agreed. Yeah, genuinely, like she was absolutely like, but she was like, I promised I wouldn't undermine her. Not going to say anything.
Here's one for you. What is your top in-character joke that we've had then?
God, I don't know.
Maybe too hard to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to hear what like our viewers remember, but it's a blur to me at this point.
It is really hard.
I remember the one from the side stream, the kind of Middenheim prequel side stream, the one where I made a joke about your character's wedding night, Lindsay, and I just remember it because you properly broke. Because it was the one about how you were picked up to be carried across the river, and it was oh, this reminds me of a wedding night, and I was like, what? Because you're not wet or whatever, and like,
oh
and
yeah, so funny.
You went.
It was so that
really
was
good.
Hilarious. Yeah.
We're really
and
lucky
yeah,
we have a funny group of people.
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
Now that
We
Ed
should-
and Dan aren't here, we could talk about how funny they are.
Right. That is the end. My throat is killing me. Like, it's so sore. I've spoken
Should
too
I
much.
do a little advert for tomorrow's Inside the Rookery?
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah.
What a
So
great
Inside-
idea.
Yeah, Inside the Rookery tomorrow, we're welcoming back Chris Hanley, who is a fine feathered friend. He has been on, I think he's been on more than any non-Rook, with the possible exception of James Wallace.
I think so.
Yeah, he's been on loads. He's a great guy. Written for a whole bunch of like RPGs and things. He's currently doing some writing for Warhammer the Old World RPG. So if you're interested in Warhammer the Old World, he will be talking about the stuff he's writing for that. He's also beginning to move into being a developer on a new project with a musician called Le Destroy, this sort of trash humanism project that he's going to talk about a little bit just now. And then once it's closer to Kickstarter, we're going to get him and Le Destroy on to talk about that. But there will be a lot of opportunities to ask him some Warhammer the Old World questions.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, actually,
This audience will like that.
he's also written for a number of the 40k role-playing games.
Yes,
So
he has.
actually, and I know he has a lot of views because we've talked about them. A lot of the questions we kind of went over today about 40k, so we touched on them a bit. He's the perfect person to have a good old chat about that with.
100%.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say at the end of this stream because usually I say caw, so I guess I'll just say like, oh, we do doodle-doo, no doodle-doo, and then I'll do the closing LAWhammer credits. Right, got it. Okay, everyone good to go. Right, bye. Thank you so much for all your super chats and your cheers. It's been great talking to you. We will speak to you again soon.